go.
Wow.
All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics and Local America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it is Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics and Local. So tonight, y'all know that we're actually only about 5
5 days.
days away from the election. And so that's going to be a heavy focus for us tonight. We're going to focus in on that, try and give you all as much information as we possibly can, and hopefully encourage you all to go out, not only to vote yourself, but encourage other folks to go out and do it as well. So we're going to give you the lineup. Of course, coming up first, Brother Zaid at 6, we're going to have Larry Hamm and of course, Brother Minister Abdul Haqq Muhammad. And a couple of other people are going to be joining them too, right?
Reverend Charles Boyer, Charles and the Demo have been the fixtures for the last couple of weeks to help, really drive this conversation. I'm also expecting Nadia Morsy from Make the Road, New Jersey, playing important roles in the ongoing protests over the ICE presence, to put it mildly, and the upcoming No King's Day action. It's a national day of action against Trump on June 14th. It's called No King's Day, and Nadia and a bunch of us are playing a role in mobilizing for that action. So she'll join on that front too. So it'll be a full conversation, full house, full conversation.
And also at 7:30, we'll have Dr. Fullilove discussing her books. One of the books of my favorite, of course, is Homeboy Came to Orange, and there are other topics. She's retired.
The book is Root Shock.
Yeah, there you go. And so we'll be seeing her at 7:30. So let's get started. Rafisa, you ready?
Well, let's talk about.
Okay, let's go.
So we want to talk about 8 o'clock. We're going to have, of course, one of our other co-hosts, Asia Norton, is going to be joining, right? And she has a guest that she's bringing in as well. A brother by the name of Chris Randall is going to be joining, right? No, Asia. No, he's coming up at 8:30. Asia's going to have. I didn't know Asia had her own civic association.
This is new. This is news to me too.
Yeah.
But she's been, in elected space before, so it's not surprising. She should have one.
Okay. So she's going to be talking about her new civic association coming up at 8, and then of course that guy I just mentioned named Chris Randall.
That guy
going to be coming on. Yeah, that guy. When
smart cub. He's one of our smart cubs of the Black Panther Party.
He like to come
read
on
everything.
He like to come on and start trouble and leave.
Yes. Strike and fade, baby.
So we'll
taking first dates to McDonald's and things like that.
Yeah, right. We'll have that young man come on and start some trouble and leave. All right. So I see Larry in the background, so we'll bring Larry up, and and some of the folks start bringing them up, and let's get into this conversation.
Right
but you wanted to have a conversation, Donna, about to talk about whether or not they're looking for any volunteers.
Yeah, we're gonna bring Rafisa back up, and Rafisa, because she was doing well. So what are you doing tomorrow, Rafisa, in the city of Newark?
So good evening, everyone. Again, we know that this is a historic election for New Jersey. Early voting ends on the 8th. We're encouraging everyone, your family, your friends, just go to the early voting sites and vote for our candidate.
And who's that candidate, Rafi?
Our candidate is our Honorable Mayor Ras J Baraka, that is running for our governor, and this is a historic election, so we're supporting him, and we encourage everyone to just go out, go to the polls early. They end at 8 p.m. Just make sure you go out and vote. Take your neighbors, take your friends. If you can offer transportation, there's many different sites, and just go out.
And Rafisa, you was talking about it off air. We were talking about a rally that's going to take place tomorrow in Newark.
Well, tomorrow is canvassing, so we're out and about, just encouraging residents and people to just come out and vote.
And are they looking for any volunteers? Anybody that want to join you all to get out and do some canvassing?
Absolutely. So you can definitely come out, volunteer, support. You can phone bank, you can canvass, you can pass out literature, support the events. So there's many things that you can do to help and support.
And is there a number that we can put in the chat so that folks who might be interested in volunteering, either phone banking or whatever way that they can get involved in helping you all tomorrow and helping the mayor? Is there a number or some sort of website or something that they can go to?
Absolutely. So there's different coordinators in the ward, so we'll post those numbers, and as well as a link where people can sign up and choose their desired time, the days that they're available, and the things that they want to do, whether it's phone banking, canvassing. So we'll definitely post that and have it ready.
And for the great city of Orange, if you want to get involved on election day, please reach out to our director, Jason Grove, at 973-997-4126. And that's Jason C. Grove. And I will put that in the chat so we can put it up on the banner as well.
Yep. And I also know that there's also going to be one tomorrow in Jersey City taking place as well. So we'll put that information up as well as the night goes on. So all over the state, there are going to be boots on the ground.
And there's also a QR code if you need a ride to vote early. So scan that QR code and they will reach out to you. So if you need a ride to get to a place to vote early.
So during the course of the night, you all will do our best to put up as much information as we possibly can in the chat. You'll see it pop up. Rafizi will put it up for you guys, and hopefully y'all can snatch it down and get involved. And as she said, it is a historic election coming up. Of course, Mayor Ras Baraka is running, and if elected, he'll be the first ever African American mayor to win. But of course, he's got to get through the primary first, right? So we need to cross this hurdle, and then we need to take him on to do battle. As Zaire and I used to say back in the boxing days, take him to the main event. You know what I mean? We got to we got to get through the preliminary fights. You know what I mean?
That's
I
right.
believe is Chairman Hamm with us waiting?
He's back there. We're ready.
Yeah, as we bring Chairman Hamm in, I've been paying attention to the newspaper, and I'm sure we all have. And I've noticed several articles about people getting to the polls and not being able to vote. And there were 3 cases, as you know, if you get to the poll and you cannot, and you're turned away by a challenger, they should, and you're not able to successful vote right there at the poll, there is an election court going on. And at that election court, you will go before a judge. And there's 3 cases in New Jersey that have gone before judges, that people have gone online to the DMV and were updating their information, maybe address change, whatever the case has been. And there were, I think, 3 cases of longstanding persons who have voted democratically. And when they went to update their information through DMV, because it also has a voting portal through the DMV, update your voting in the DMV, it also changed their party. So there was one case, it changed it to like a third party. But when this person went before the judge, it was clear that this person had voted Democrat, in 2 cases, had voted Democrat previously up until that change. But because this is a primary, you have to be a declared Democrat or Republican. And in one case, one judge ruled that one person could vote, and the other one, they did not rule that they could vote. And they said it's a problem of the legislature with this type of partisan primary. So please pay attention when you are updating your records, and always on those days when it's time to register to vote, that's also a good time to make sure everything is in order, because in New Jersey, if you're not declared, you cannot participate in the primary, Democrat or Republican.
That's important.
All right.
Sure.
Is Larry there? Is that or
Yeah, very say.
does he have his
The camera's not
camera?
on, but it's there. Mm-hmm.
I'll call.
Larry, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can't see you.
Why is that?
You must have blacked us out, brother.
No, my cam is on, my mic is on. I'll go out and come back in and see what happens.
All right. Donna, I'm gonna send you something because I don't have Rafisa's number, so you can send it to her and maybe she can post this or put this up at some point during the night. This is going to be the rally tomorrow with the mayor in Jersey City. Yeah, we got him now. Yeah. Okay.
Donnie, you're muted. You're talking, but you're muted.
Mayor Baraka is doing a rally in Jersey City tomorrow.
I'm not sure if he's going to be there, but I know that the rally is going to be tomorrow from 10 to 12.
With the Baraka team?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Jersey City folks are going to be doing Jersey City. I know that, I mean, they're all over the place. So like Rafisa was saying, so they're all over. So I'm, we want to get involved.
Get out. And Chairman, did you hear what I was telling about the cases? If a person gets to the poll and they're denied the process, and not able to be successful, then you can go before a judge. And I don't know if you've been reading, there was at least 3 cases I read about that people were updating records. So I just want to make sure that people understand that when they get to the polls, if for some reason a poll worker or a challenger turns you away, that's not the end of it. You have the right to challenge and go before a judge and fight for your right to vote.
Exactly. And we discussed this in the POP meeting last night. Well, first of all, let me say I early voted on Tuesday. I went in and for some reason I took my sample ballot with me. And I would recommend that people who are going to vote, whether they're going in early or whether they go on Tuesday, bring your sample ballot that has your name on it with you. And one of the reasons is if you see on your sample ballot, it's on, let's see, on the face page where your address is, there's my address right there. There's your address. This is the face page. This is as it comes to you in the mail. You'll see on this side, this box, it also has your name, your ward, and your district, and it has a barcode on it. Now, when I went to early vote, I early voted at the Wassessing Park field house. It's a brand new field house down there. It's off of, where the buses stop at the park on Bloomfield Avenue in Bloomfield. The 34 stops there, the 29, the 11, they all the Bloomfield Avenue buses stop there. Yep. And if you look into the park, you can see a building at the opposite end, and that's the new field house. And I went there to early vote. And I just happened, it wasn't anything like, in my head, oh, you got to take your census. I just picked it up on the way out the door. And when I went in and I was directed to the table where they sign you in, they took my sample ballot and they scanned that barcode. Y'all see that barcode right there? They scanned it. So that'll take them exactly where you are in the database. And that will help you, that will facilitate clearing up any problems that might arise. So this came up in our meeting last night, and one of our members, Sharon Lynn, said to everybody, make sure you take your sample ballot with you. And I concur, and I would urge everybody to take their sample ballot with them. They will scan you in, and that will speed things up for you in case there are any problems. Now, normally I don't have any problems voting because I vote in just about every election. And so, my records are up to date. But say, for instance, say if you haven't voted in a couple of years, you may have some difficulty. I'm hoping you don't, but just in case you do, take that sample ballot with you when you go and vote, and it will help them clear up any problems that might come up. So I agree. Go ahead.
Ask a question. If somebody didn't get their sample ballot,
that's a problem.
No,
that's automatically a flag. If you didn't get a sample ballot, that's a flag. You need to call Hall of Records right away, because by law, every registered voter is supposed to get a sample ballot. So if you didn't get your sample ballot, call the Hall of Records, go wherever you have to go and get it straightened out.
But here's the problem.
Let me just say this: it's not. I know at the municipal level, it's not a law. So I would have to check with because this is a state and county election run by the county clerk. But some like the state, it's up to the clerk of the municipality whether they'll mail out the ballots or not, because it is an expense of the taxpayers. So they could or could not do it. But I will say the county, as Chris Durkin has mailed out all the ballots. So if you didn't get it, check with the county and they will get you out another one. But it is optional in some cases.
Let me jump in on this because, I was hoping, I wanted to hear that because I did call. Right. And I was told that they don't have to send anything out. Right. Because I also asked about whether or not I could get voter registration cards for my daughter and I, right? My daughter voted for the first time in the last election, right? We got sample ballots, right? I vote all the time also, right? So this was unusual, right?
It was.
So, so I'm just raising that because I just for sake of civic education for anybody else who's going through this process, what to do and how to address it.
And I took the course for the RMC, and that was probably one of the most shocking things through the course that I learned, that it is optional because it is a taxpayer expense. But you're still in Essex County, correct?
Right in East Orange, ain't nothing changed.
Essex County, yeah. So the clerk has mailed out the Essex County ballots. So I don't know if you were talking to the board of the county, Chris, the clerk, county clerk. Yeah. I'm just saying they went out. So if you were talking to the board of elections, they will give a different office than the office of the county clerk. So did you talk to the office of the county clerk or did you talk to the board of elections? Which office?
Board of Elections.
Yeah, you should talk to the county clerk because he mails them out.
It's
on his person.
Yeah. So every registered voter in Essex County was supposed to receive this.
Right.
So just like Larry said, right, and just like Zaid, I didn't get my sample ballot, right? So Kim got hers, but I didn't get mine. So I called the county clerk's office, and they blamed it on the postal guy, right? They said that I should go to the post office and talk to the post office because they claim they sent it out, right? And here's the problem. With folks not getting their sample ballot, remember, this acts as a reminder, right? And it also helps you, as Larry just said, because it has that barcode, right?
Yep.
So they're able to scan your barcode, take you right to your voting record and all of that, right? And it also acts as an ID, right? Because it has your name, your address, and all of that stuff on there, right? So, it doesn't look like there's any fraud taking place. but it does look like there's some fraud either taking place at the postal level or the clerk's level, because not everybody's getting a sample ballot, right?
Yeah.
And they could, and based on that, they can determine, right? I'm not going to send sample ballots, right? In certain zip codes, and so in those certain zip codes, right, people, right, could not get their ballots, and that's voter fraud. You see what I mean? So just like Zaid, I had the same problem. I called, spoke to the clerk's office. She claimed that, they went out at the same time. And I'm telling you, for the last couple of elections, I haven't got one. I didn't get one for LaMonica, and now I'm not getting one for the mayor.
Yeah.
I would really recommend to our audience and to all the activists that when this election is over, we should all go to the board of, what is it called? It's not freeholders anymore. The board of county commissioners.
Yeah.
We should go to a board of commissioners meeting and raise this issue. This is the issue. If the law doesn't require every municipality to do this, now it is being done because it's a county election, so everybody in the county is supposed to be getting their ballot. But if there's a law that somehow gives some municipalities a way out, we should be demanding as a reform,
Right,
that there be a law that every voter should receive a sample ballot for every election.
Right.
That's a demand that we should raise. Even if the demand can't be met, we should raise it, because in the days and months, years ahead, we're going to have increasing problems
exactly.
with our electoral system.
Exactly.
And this is not an accident.
It's very
This is the result of policy decisions that have been made. Like the post office is a real problem.
Right.
Why is it a problem? Because Biden wouldn't fire Louis DeJoy, who was appointed by Trump in the first term. DeJoy is connected to one of the private mail carriers, either FedEx or UPS, one of them.
Yeah.
And his open goal was the destruction of the Postal Service. In fact, in the election in 2016, he actually had the mechanical distribution machines dismantled. These were huge machines that could process tens of thousands of letters literally in minutes. He had them dismantled. This happened before. It wasn't like a secret. All of this was in the news.
That's right.
And so now we see how the destruction of the postal system is affecting the democratic process. In addition to destroying the mass sorting machines, he also did severe cuts. I used to work at the post office. I worked in the post office in 76 and in 77. And the post office was one of the most crowded workplaces you could work. When postal workers got off their shift, you saw all these people on South Broad Street going home. Now you look down there and it's a ghost town. Like if you go to the window where, like if you go to your P.O. box in the main branch, you have a little slip in there, and then you go to that window that's not far from where your mailboxes are.
Service window. Yes,
and in that window, you can actually see into the shop floor, like where the mail is actually being processed. It hardly anybody back there.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't used to be like that. You look in that window and behind the person that's taking care of you, you saw people going this way and that way, people pushing gurneys, people pushing dollies with mail bags on them, and on and on and on. It's like a ghost town down there now. And this is the product of the cutback. This has been a policy position that they want to destroy and privatize the existing public postal system, which, by the way, is mandated by the Constitution of the United States. Most people don't know that. The Postal Service, the establishment of the Postal Service is something like Article 3 or 5, right? Like on the front page of the Constitution. And they want to destroy that so that FedEx and UPS, can take all that over and make it another profit center.
Yeah, he had a private called something logistics, but I think, I'm a fan of art. And if we remember an older movie, Miracle on 34th Street, you got that big civic education during the trial where the attorney representing the gentleman who wanted to be Santa Claus, his name's Santa Claus, and he read the Constitution of the United States, and then you see probably like 10 mailmen come in with bags of mail, and the case was won based on the people sending mail.
I remember that. I saw that movie more than once in my childhood, Miracle at 34th Street, and so if there's a problem with the postal system, it's not an accident, and it's probably, for the most part, not due to any malfeasance. It's really because they have hollowed out the postal system. They have hollowed it out. And, I can remember at one point back in the 80s or 90s, they were talking about doing 7-day-a-week delivery. And then all of a sudden, all of that went away. And now they're talking about only 5-day-a-week delivery. They want to stop delivering on Saturday, or maybe they have stopped delivering on Saturday already.
I think the only 7-day, and it's still, post office is still most efficient, is the express mail, and they still do that 7-day, and they do a good job with their express mail.
Right. Right. And you know why, right? Because they haven't destroyed that like they did the rest of the post office, because many people don't know Federal Express and UPS depend on the post office to do some of their deliveries.
The last lane, it's called the last lane.
Right. In places that are hard to reach. And they use the post office.
Because they can go by pony or
right. So, it's a shame, democracy is in real trouble here. And we see it in little examples like this, the fact that all the voters are not getting their sample ballots.
Or, like I said, when I took that course, I was so, I can remember, how you're in a class and you're confident, and it's like, do clerks have to mail out the sample ballot? And I'm like, yes, and like wrong, and I remember that led to a big discussion, because you would think this is the one thing that's, taxpayers pay for: safety, education, the primary, what you putting things. And this is the information, but it's up to the discretion. And I'm gonna actually go back and look and see, was that done by referendum or not? Because that's interesting, because it probably should be brought back up. Or question, do you want the county clerk from a municipal all the way up to a state election, all the way up to a federal election, to mail out a ballot and so on and so forth? How
can you have an informed decision if you don't get anything, and then you just got to go to the voting booth? In fact, I think, Donna, in the article you were citing, if we were reading the same article, they were talking about the confusion of many voters, because there have never been so many candidates for a single office in a primary. And people were walking in there, well, who do I vote for? You know, but if you got the information in advance, you know, you could make up your mind, you know, just like during COVID, right? During COVID, we had total mail-in election.
Right.
And what happened? Participation shot up.
Right. And I'm gonna give you better than that. During Sandy, I never forget working during Sandy. We received ballots by fax. You know, people were walking in. That was a precedent election, but people were out there voting. The hurricane was coming up the coast. People were doing early vote. Lines were all over, and they extended it beyond. That was an election that I'm glad that I got the opportunity to work in, because I manned the fax machine, and people were, it was just, you know, by any means necessary, get your vote in. And the legislature extended that if people can't get because of this natural disaster, let's open up the opportunity for them to vote. And it should be like that. There should be no barriers to voting in 2025.
There should be no you said it. Put that, make a sign out of that. There should be no barriers to voting. That sounds like a slogan to me. You know,
it shouldn't be, Larry, but that's not. But remember, you know, you still got people who understand that it is to their benefit.
That's right.
To prevent certain groups from getting to the polls, right?
That's right.
Remember, you know, John and I were having this conversation earlier today. You know, the one thing that they do know about Mayor Baraka is that if Mayor Baraka is successful at getting his base out to vote, he can win.
That's right.
But if they're successful at keeping his base home, right, they understand that there's not going to be enough votes to go around, because if you got some African American votes being siphoned off to some of the candidates, right, and he can't get his votes out. Remember, you know, our people have such low information. The beauty of being able to get this in the mail is it serves as a reminder. Oh, wow.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Because you got so many other things going on in your life. But
that's
if you get this in the mail and then Tuesday comes, you say, man, I forgot to go vote. And the beauty of this, the beauty of the sample ballot is you get an opportunity to go through the ballot, read. You can look at if there are any questions on the ballot that you want to respond to. Right, that's the beauty of this thing, and it's an educational piece. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, for folks like us, because, you know, we happen to be, you know, political science junkies here. We like, you know, we all into this stuff. But for the average person to be able to sit down and say, let me see, you know, where's the mayor located at? So when I go in there, I ain't got to look at all these other people because I'm not even interested in them. Where do I go vote for the mayor? Okay, right there. Okay, I'm gonna go, and you take the sample ballot with you, put it in front of you. He said, all right, there's my brother. Bang, I'm out of here.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. There it is.
I do.
You explained it perfectly, Ed.
Yeah.
And
can't add anything to it.
And here's the thing: if we got Ed in your ballot, I want to see, because we talked about this last week. If you look at the what line is Mayor Baraka on your ballot?
So and that was one of the reasons I wanted to make sure we had this, because my ballot, we have mayor ballot, we have the mayor on this one. He's in line 2 here, right?
Line 2, yeah.
And that's what, Union County?
That's Hudson County.
Hudson.
Yeah.
So you got a good position. In Essex County, he's 5.
He's 5. Yeah. So that's interesting. Okay, because we want to see that.
So he's 2A in Jersey City, in Hudson County, and you know, so all of Hudson County, anybody in Hoboken, Jersey City, they can find the mayor tomorrow at 2A. I mean, on Tuesday. Well, you can find them for the next couple of days at 2A, and definitely on Tuesday. You know?
And when you look at your ballot and you have a state election, you look at your ballot, you got a state election and a county. Do you have a local election going on too, or just state and county?
Just state and county.
Yeah, because I also want to tell people, when you see that, and I'm going to say it real simple, and we can go into this another day. We'll have a big civic day. But let's say life happens And I know I used to work in the city, used to cut that corner, and something's going on. And I get back, and I can't get to a poll in Orange, but I can get to a poll in Newark. In a state election for Mayor Baraka, you can vote anywhere in the state. You don't have, I mean, they may challenge you, but just know that you can vote anywhere in the state. And for the county, you can vote anywhere in the county. But we'll unpack that at another, you know. And I had a senior with me who couldn't get back to. She was with me in Orange, and she lived in Newark. And this is for the when Congressman McIver was running, and I took her to my polling place. And sometimes, because you have a turnover of people in the in voting places, they don't get all the information of people who have been voting years. They just don't know all of the laws, and it's not, the training is different in different places. But she lived in Newark. She was with me in Orange, and because voting for Congressman McIver was a federal, she could vote anywhere. And it's primarily for college students too. If you're here and this is a federal election, but you didn't get to register somewhere, you can vote in that federal, but you can't vote down ballot. So just know that when it comes to voting, you should be prepared. Don't wait for the day, because there's a lot of information.
Right. So, and on your sample ballot, when you go to the inside, well, I guess it would be the back page. Mm-hmm. It has a list of the early voting sites, right? Mm-hmm. Early voting locations.
Yep.
There's a list there, and it tells you where you can go for early voting. And so on my ballot, it told me to go to the Wassessing Park Community Center, Bloomfield Avenue, and Conjure Street. Fortunately, I know the area, so I didn't know Conjure Street by name, but I knew where the field house was because I pass it periodically, trying to come down to the Parkway, come out to Bloomfield Avenue. But everybody need to go out and vote. This is a historic election. It's the opportunity for us to do as they did in Maryland, yes, and elect a Black governor. The governor of Maryland is Wes Moore, a Black man. So for people who think it's not possible, it is possible. Wes Moore is the current governor of Maryland. There was a brother whose name escapes me at the moment, who was even the governor of Virginia, right? The capital of the
Doug Wilder.
Doug Wilder, yes, Doug Wilder. Mm-hmm. The Virginia was the seat of the Confederacy. Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy, but even Virginia was able to elect a Black governor. So if Virginia can do it, if Maryland can do it down there in the South, then we can do it here in New Jersey if we set our minds to it. You know, one of the challenges is we must not be self-defeating. You know, you defeat yourself. You know, you convince yourself that something is not possible.
Negotiate.
It is possible. We got 6 candidates in this election, and that pie is going to be cut 6 different ways. Mikey Sherrill is the leader, but she's only posting at about 28 to 30%. This thing is going to be close. I'm telling you.
And that's what.
And the outcome can be historic if Black people come out in significant numbers. Now, there was an article that came out in New Jersey Spotlight News that said there's going to be a higher. Let's see, it came out, just get it right. It came out on the 5th, which was what, yesterday?
Yeah.
Came out yesterday. And it says there's a higher voter turnout, higher than usual in a gubernatorial primary. And they even had a chart that showed the results of the ballots and early voting so far. I don't know if y'all can see that chart.
Mhm.
There's a blue side and a red side. The blue side is the Democrats, the red side is the Republicans. And it showed county by county how many people so far had mailed in ballots, how many people had voted in person. This was as of yesterday. Now it's not over, so it could change. But we see, for instance, for Essex County, where Newark is located, that so as of Thursday, 15,719 people had mailed their ballots, and 1,334 had voted in person, for a total of 17,053 people that cast ballots before Election Day, June 10th. And now Essex was one of the higher counties, but I have to say something. Gotta say something, Ed.
Go ahead.
Camden County
Mhm.
was the highest for mail-in ballots.
Wow.
Remember I said Essex had
Yes.
15,719?
Mhm.
Camden County was first place out of the 21 counties with 31,445 mail-in ballots as of Thursday.
So they doubled them.
And
Say that number again.
yes,
15 times 2, 31,000.
that's right. 31,445 people mailed in ballots. Now, this is interesting. And 210 people voted in person for a total of 31,655. Now, that's Democrats, right? I didn't read the Republican figure. I'm not concerned about Republicans right now. That'll be after Tuesday. But I was surprised by that because, you know, Sweeney comes out of Burlington County, I believe, South Jersey, Norcross territory.
Right.
And I had a talk with one of the labor leaders who lives in Newark, by the way. And he was saying, and he told me this before I read it in the article. He told me that they have a real machine down there in terms of getting people to mail in early, at least the mailing part. It doesn't seem like the in-person voting was that much. In fact, they were among the lowest for the in-person, but for the mailing, they were the highest of all 21 counties with 31,445.
That's the thing. They got a mailing. They got a good ground mailing game. That's beautiful.
Yes, how about that?
That they could win if it's consistent from the municipal all the way to the top. That's just because you corrected me last. You know, I always assume Essex. You corrected last week. Essex is not the biggest, but that's something to say.
Yeah, the biggest county I believe is Bergen County.
Bergen.
Population wise.
Density, yeah, the population.
Population wise, I believe Bergen County is the biggest. Middlesex is pretty big too. And they tell me Middlesex is Mikey Sherrill country. But you know, Black people, we got to get in this game more sophisticated, more energetically. You know, we should be using that mail-in ballot, you know, because a lot of our people do forget, you know, and it's not just us, other people forget too. We're not the only people that forget to vote, you know. In fact, Black people do pretty good, but we could do better. You know, I mean, technically, you know, politics is a lot of things, but in the end, politics is mathematics.
And Chairman, we've done it because in both 2008, 2012, the numbers were so unprecedented. The lines.
That's right.
I remember that 2008. I was like, I came out the house at 6 a.m. I was like, oh my gosh, the machines are broke already. But it was lines we have 19 polling places in Orange. Every polling place had a line.
It was that way all over Black communities because we were voting for Barack Obama for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was like Nelson Mandela election in South Africa. You know, we came out.
Mm-hmm.
Black people, we could win this election on when all the votes are finally counted Tuesday night.
Yes, we
We
did.
They
could
said
win this
in
election.
one letter they said they think the count's going to go into Wednesday because the primary count might go into Wednesday.
Good,
It's because
good.
of the
That's a
primary.
good sign. That's
That
a good
is.
sign if it goes into Wednesday. But if we come out, Ras Baraka could win this election with 150,000 votes. He
Chairman,
could win this election.
I want to read
And we
something.
certainly have 150,000 votes, don't we, Ed?
That's
The
right.
whole state, you would think so.
Right.
I want to read this real quick from Tariq Kenny. He put this up about 2 hours ago. Over the last weeks, I have noticed that several Democratic candidates or their, I don't know if y'all seen this. He posted this like 2 hours ago. Or their supports have employed a racist argument regarding Mayor Ras J. Baraka's bid to become New Jersey's first Black governor. They often attempt to assert that his exceptional oratoric skills are inversely proportional to his ability to govern, claiming that his ideas lack foundation in well-researched policies. Performative, not performance. This style over substance argument is misguided. Notably, among the candidates running for elected office, he possesses the most executive level experience, having consistently demonstrated his ability to excel in challenges and situations. For instance, he transformed a struggling high school into an institute that secured $2 million in college scholarships and doubled the graduation rate without resorting to gimmicks. Research and reasoning. Additionally, he created safer streets while Newark experienced tremendous economic growth, generating $200 million in businesses for Black, brown, and women vendors and developers. Furthermore, he successfully returned state-controlled school to local control, resolved the water crisis without burdening over 21,000 homeowners with additional expenses, established inclusionary zones, and promoted growth in affordable housing while market rate units expanded. Collaboration and vision. Based on Rod's record, it is evident that protests helped create a mayor with tremendous progress and performance. Additionally, Ras is more collaborative than most. Unfortunately, the subtle implication that Ras is articulate is not a compliment. Rather, it is a racist attempt to invalidate his ability to inspire people through passion while implementing policies grounded in pragmatism and purpose. This tactic is reminiscent of Hillary's criticism of Obama's oratorical skills, which she attempted to use. And then he goes on to give the example, and then there's a footnote he put, Obama won New Jersey, and I'll add he also won the presidency. Anything
Who
about
put that out by Donna?
Tariq Kenny?
Okay, I didn't see it. I was looking for it. Okay.
I sent it. I'll send it again.
That's
well,
and the biggest lie, the biggest truth to check that lie, and I appreciate what he said, was one of the first things that Ras did to demonstrate exactly what Tariq is talking about was when he had the lead replacement line action done. That was hugely collaborative. Hugely collaborative. In fact, most folks couldn't even see at the beginning, couldn't even see him being able to do that, but he got it done. He got it done.
And I'll ask you, 4 years before that, as a city council person, as a sitting city council member, we had that same problem in Orange. And what we did was we went back to the water supplier, and the solution at that time that we came up was that they would issue an insurance so that people can buy it if that happened. But what he did, I every time I talk to him, I'm in awe that he did that. And through collaboration, we also should add, that did not cause any taxpayers to come out their pocket, added to their home ownership in terms of the value. So it was something, and now it's at the federal level along with his violent reduction legislation.
These arguments are old arguments. They are arguments that always appear when a Black person seems to be getting in close proximity to the levers of power. When Ken Gibson ran for mayor in 1966 and in 1970, remember he ran twice. He lost the first time, he won the second time. They said that he didn't have the skills to run the city. Even there were Black people talking about we weren't ready. You know, it's the same arguments that they use, like when it was time for Ghana to get its independence, and time when the people of Rhodesia demanded their independence. What did the colonialists say? The colonials said they're not ready for self-governance. In fact, Cecil Rhodes said that Black people in Rhodesia wouldn't be ready for self-governance for 1,000 years. And they achieved independence, you know, within probably 60 years from when Cecil Rhodes went in there and established Rhodesia. So these are old racist arguments. Remember, Ken Gibson ran for governor. I don't know, Ed, you remember when Gibson ran for governor?
I do. Yeah.
Yes. I think he ran in 85, was it? Or was it 87? 80, I think it was 85. He ran for okay. And he ran for governor. They said the same thing. You know, and it's so racist because it really is a hit at Black people's intelligence. Like, oratory becomes another ability akin to singing and dancing. Like, white people in their racist perspective will concede that we got rhythm. You know, they don't have rhythm. We can sing and dance better than they can. You know, we can play sports better than they can. You know, so yes, we can, when it comes to giving speeches, we can speak better than white people. But white people, like Mr. Spock on the Enterprise, are more logical, you know, in their thinking, and invariably, inherently more intelligent. I mean, this is the epitome of racism. But what's worse than the racism is the fact that some of our own people will accept these arguments. That some of our own people will say that the white man's ice is colder. Like Zaid got an ice box and some white man got an ice box, and somehow they got the same ice box, but the ice from the white man is going to be better than the ice from Zaid. You know, it's racist. You know, it's racist to the core. Baraka is as qualified and capable. Look, after these white people elected Donald Trump, I don't want to hear anything else from anybody about being qualified. They elected the most unqualified person in the history of the country to be president, a person who had bankrupted his own businesses scores of times, a person that couldn't even make money from a casino. Ed, how do you fail to make money from a casino? The casino is a perfect capitalist business. People come in, put their money on the table, and walk out. How do you not make money? How do you not make money in that situation?
And the most corrupt.
And the most corrupt, the most incapable, the most corrupt and criminal.
And to your point,
how can somebody talk to us about qualifications when they elected someone guilty of 34 felonies?
Yeah, and at a time when they ran him against two of the most qualified, if you know, because that's the thing, when you're looking at elections, you're not going home to sleep with your presidents, your mayors, and your governors. You want them to run the office that they're in. And the first time it was against Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State Clinton, and then Vice President Harris, who were very qualified, and they ran them against him, and it was based on they're not ready, and they're not qualified, or they can't do, and they were more qualified by what their day-to-day jobs have done, and that how they have successfully governed in those positions.
Ras Baraka is qualified to be governor. Just say the truth. Say you don't want to vote for him. Because that's what it comes down to a lot of people.
Don't want to vote for a black man from Newark.
Exactly. Just say the truth. You don't want to vote for a black man.
Anybody but this colored guy.
And I'm saying this to black people and white people. Just say the truth. And stop the deception about qualifications and experience. When time after time you have voted again and again for men far less qualified than Ras Baraka and sent them on to victory and re-elected them. So, you know, this stuff about qualifications, it's a red herring. You know, it's deception, it's subterfuge. You know, people should just say the truth. Just say, I don't want to vote for a black man. and say it with your chest so everybody can hear you, so we can hear what you really mean. You know, people got to come out and vote. Don't sit this election out. Don't sit this election out.
State blues, baby.
That's right.
Let's pivot for a minute, yeah, because we rocked that hour out like nothing.
So,
you know,
I want to make sure that we get in a few minutes about June 14th, the National No Kings Day, because we've got a local, participation in that, right? So, you know, Dima, I know you want to jump in on some of that, and I was hoping that Nadia would have gotten it because her organization is playing an important role in that too, as is Ami Torres.
I think she was here earlier, correct? She was here. Is she not in the background?
Yes, she was on.
Mm-hmm.
Is she back?
Yeah, she was definitely on.
Nadia should have been on. Yeah,
Nadia.
Yeah, I don't see Nadia.
Said there.
She was on though. She was on when I couldn't get on. She was there.
Okay.
And then she jumped up. But let me say quickly, June 14th is Donald Trump's birthday. And that's
where that day comes from.
In the style of all great dictators, he wanted to have a military parade on the day of his birthday with the army marching past him as he stands on the wall and waves to the crowd.
At a ticket price of $45 million.
That's right. At a ticket price of $45 million. He's having a military parade that's going to tear up the streets of Washington, D.C., because those streets were not constructed for the heavy artillery, the multi-ton heavy artillery vehicles that will be in the military parade. I read an article that said may cost $16 million additionally, Donna, after the parade to repair the damage done to the streets of Washington, D.C. So there's a national organization called 50/50+1, working with other organizations like Indivisible and many other, I can't name them all. They have had these hands-off demonstrations. They had one in February. We went to the DC demonstration, the Washington DC demonstration. They had another one, I believe it was in, might have been early April. They had another one in 50 demonstrations in 50 states. So on Saturday, June 14th, next Saturday, there will be demonstrations in 1,400 cities and towns across the country, with 30 of them taking place in cities and towns in New Jersey. People will march against Donald Trump to say, we don't want a king, we don't want a tyrant, we don't want a dictator. So in Newark, the Newark demonstration will be co-sponsored by New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice and People's Organization for Progress.
That's
Yes, and it's going to take place at 11 a.m., gathering at the Lincoln Statue, 12 Springfield Avenue in Newark. We're going to rally before at 11. We're going to march, and we're going to rally to conclude the event after the march is over. So we want as many people to come out. You know, POP has been having these anti-Trump demonstrations since 2015. We protested against Trump before he was elected.
That's right.
In 2015, in November 2015. And we continue to have Trump must go demonstrations. And so now we're in sync with this national movement. And we're going to be joining the people across the country. So Newark need to come out strong. Everybody that's sick and tired of Trump. I can't tell you how many times I've said to myself how much I hate the Trump administration. Every day, every time I pick up the newspaper or I go to a news source, there's some other abomination there to read about, you know, and it's not a metaphor, brothers and sisters. It's not a metaphor. It's not an exaggeration. Trump is trying to establish himself as a dictator. How do we know this? What is the proof? All you have to do is look at his defiance of Supreme Court orders.
Absolutely.
We were taught in school that there were three branches of government: the legislative, the judicial, and the executive, and that they were all supposed to check and balance each other. Trump has engaged in unlawful, illegal activities that have been declared so by judges appointed by Republican presidents. And he has defied the orders of the Supreme Court. He has ignored those orders of the Supreme Court. The only reason he's not defying the Congress is because they control the Congress. It's a rubber stamp Congress. It's the Congress that had the temerity to actually name a bill the big, beautiful bill. I thought that was like some kind of slang or slogan. That's the actual name of the bill. The big, beautiful bill is a humongous monstrosity of death and destruction. It will cause draconian cuts to every social program of the federal government to pay for a second round of $1 trillion tax cuts for the biggest, richest people in this country.
At a time when he's putting people out of work in the thousands.
Let me just say this. There's one program that we just seen on the news all week. And that's a program that I can remember goes back to people from high school went to this program, and that's Job Corps.
Yes.
Oh God, I remember that.
Talk about
coming out
just
of
recently.
Job
Yes,
Corps
very good program.
with garbage bags full of their belongings because they cut that program. I know there was something that in this bill, certain monies were going back to the state. I don't know. Maybe does that mean that we not all our federal tax dollars? There's no more federal tax dollars. Let it all go back to the state. We get it, because this right here, to see that example, and that's a program that benefits our community because everybody is not going to college, and to see in that it was just disrupted. You know, you didn't even say we're going to cut it off. You know, like through attrition or something like that. It was just cut. And some of those people have come from going to homeless to going back to school and stability. And now they're leaving, going right back to a park bench to live under a bridge or something like that and never finish their education. This is horrible.
They're cutting the SNAP program. Hundreds of millions. SNAP is the food stamp program.
That's right.
It's to help people that are hungry. They're going to cut the CHIPS program, which is the health insurance for children. They're going to take $800 billion out of Medicaid. That's going to cause hospitals to close because a lot of hospitals are dependent on that Medicaid money. They can't keep their doors open without that Medicaid money. Yes, charity care. It's paid for by Medicaid. That's right.
But it's going
They
to go
want
back to
to
the
take.
old model.
That's right. They want to cut $500 billion out of Medicare, the health program for the elderly, people 65 and older get Medicare. Well, they want to take $500 billion out of Medicare. They want to cut Social Security. And Musk did so much damage when they went into these different agencies, messing with their computer systems. Now people have been getting their Social Security checks late. Now, I don't know about you. I pay my rent with my Social Security. If I don't get my Social Security check, I can't pay my rent.
That's real stuff.
People are going to die because of these policies. This is not an exaggeration. This is not metaphor. This is not hyperbole. People are going to die, and they don't care.
And
they don't care.
How many years did you contribute to Social Security before you start collecting?
Like from the time I first started working at 17 years old.
And that was probably over 50 years of contribution?
Oh, that's 53 years of 54 years of contributions.
So it's money that you put in that has been compounded. They've received the interest and all.
Program of the federal government ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. They want to end social. I'm telling you, they want to end Social Security. You know, Social Security didn't always exist. Right. Social Security came out of the struggles of the 30s. There were huge struggles in the 1930s that created unemployment insurance, Social Security, bank regulation, all of this as a result of the Great Depression of the 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
But Larry, let's also, you know, share with the folks that we're not just talking about Social Security. Remember, they got Medicaid and Medicare that are also going to be cut, right?
That's right.
And you know, you got folks who are actually living in nursing homes who depend on Medicaid.
That's right. Talk about it.
Be paid. And when you cut that, where are these folks going, right? If those bills can no longer be paid, and then you also got people who are transitioning to nursing homes, and they need Medicaid to do that.
That's right.
What happens if they cut Medicaid and then now you can't get that money? So
if they don't have relatives who are willing to take care of them,
right,
they will go into the street.
That's right.
And we need to say this to a lot of brothers and sisters who might not be like, you know, up on the news. If they cut Medicaid and they cut the funding to nursing homes that your mother or your father or both may be in, you may end up having to take your mother or your father into your home.
Right.
And even though you go to work every day, you will have to pay for their care.
That's right. That's right. And that's the conversation, Larry, that most of us are not having, right? But we need to have that. So when you start thinking about, you know, when this bill comes home to you, how is it going to come home to you? You need to, well, we already see it with Job Corps, right? So that's very real in our community for young people who are trying to find their way, right? But when it comes to your parents and you know, and also you know, you got a lot of our folks you see walking around with walkers and walking around, you know, with canes and all of that. Most of those folks are what's called dual recipients. They got both Medicare and Medicaid.
That's right.
And so
that's right.
Is what pays for their co-payments, right? What pays for their co-insurance. So what happens if they cut that and all these people get his Medicare? Remember, Medicare only pays 80%.
That's right.
So you still stuck with 20%.
That's right.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, you know, and then if they cut Social Security, so now your Social Security is gone, your health care is gone. I mean, I heard Minister Baraka said one time. He said, "Wait a minute." He said, "If there's a supermarket full of food, and I got kids at home, and I can't afford to feed my food, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to see a lot of people going in the supermarkets that don't want to become thieves, going in there, and a whole bunch of stuff is going to be walking out the door.
Yes, and Ed, they are preparing for the very contingency you just outlined. The fact that when people get hungry and they don't have a way, they're going to make a way. See, people think that this ICE security force and Homeland Security, people think that that's just for immigrants. I'm telling you, in a word,
that's the first
in
line.
one word, that can be switched to put down any dissent in the country.
Got that right.
I mean, Trump has even said so. He said, yeah, let's send our homegrown citizens. Let's send our homegrown people to these prisons in these other countries.
Right.
You know,
speaking of that, the young man from Maryland was released, got back, and he walked in, and now he's being charged and was hit with more charges of transporting immigrants from Texas up to Maryland.
Right, Abrego Garcia. Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they were wrong. Mm-hmm. Why is Abrego Garcia back? He's back because the Supreme Court that Trump controls.
How about that?
Told Trump what you did was illegal and unconstitutional, and you must return him. And for 30 days, Trump resisted that order. But to my surprise and the surprise of other people, Abrego Garcia, remember, they admitted that they were wrong in transporting him there. But they said, we wash our hands. There's nothing we can do. He's out of our jurisdiction now. He's under the authority of the El Salvadoran government. Mm-hmm. And the court said, that's bullshit. You go bring that man back. So now they brought back the man that they wrongfully took to that country. So now it's just like police brutality. Now we got to put some charges on him to justify what we did in the first place.
Resisting arrest.
Yeah. And even
it's just like police brutality.
And bringing and in the early days of bringing the president over from El Salvador and bringing him to the Oval Office, and he kind of said, "What do you think? I can just walk him in here with me?" You know, like when he was first resisting bringing him back, and even the president of El Salvador said, "There's nothing I could do." And this prison is like, oh my gosh, it's just. Even the thought of just sending people there, and I think on one of those planes was a doctor, a U.S. Citizen, and it's just, I could, oops.
I mean, but we don't have to go that far. They arrested the mayor of Newark.
Right. Exactly.
They arrested the congresswoman from Newark. If the congresswoman has no protection and the mayor has no protection, who do you think is next?
Right.
You and I. In the big, beautiful bill that they want to pass, there's a provision in there that says if any college, and Jonathan, maybe you can help me with this because my memory is not what it used to be. Any person advocating a boycott of Israel can be convicted, jailed, and fined $1 million.
Yeah, they are trying to squash dissent on that way because they're defining anti-Semitism as being against Zionism, right? And even loosely being against an actual state of Israel, right? So against a political philosophy or against an actual nation state, which clearly goes against the First Amendment, but we don't know what these judges will do because they're pushing it to the max. And that becomes the problem. Part of the reason why, like, I voted for Ras in the primaries already. I voted early. I think everyone should vote early as well. And and I think that the main reason for it is that we need someone who's going to fight for the state, and be the smart, innovative, charismatic problem solver that we have. I'm looking at these other Democratic candidates. And as I said, like, this is like a contest between Motown and elevator music.
I like that analogy.
But really, man, like you have a very smart, nerdy, geeky, but charismatic person, right? And I think that combination of, and people don't really talk about this about Ras, but Ras is a nerd. I mean, he reads all the time. He's geeky, right? But that's why he's able to solve problems. And I think anything he needs to push out more is that, like, it really is a bookworm. You always see him reading books. He's always talking about books he read. He's always talking about, like, the books he read to solve problems, which is the reason why he thinks outside the box and was able to bring the solutions that he did, like looking at violence as a public health issue, because he read all the stuff about community violence and then implemented it and then got results off of it. I think that that part of Ras, being that nerdy, geeky problem solver, right? I don't think he gets enough of that. But in addition to being the person who has the head in books and can solve some problems and bring people together to solve those problems, he's also the charismatic person we need, right? Because one of the things when they talk about electability is, like, you know, the majority of white people are not going to vote for the white Democratic candidate. They haven't for decades. Like, we know this. In New Jersey, the majority of white people in New Jersey are going to vote for the Republican. That happens 100% of the time.
In the general election.
In the general election, absolutely. Right. In the general election, the majority of white people have always voted for the Republican. The Democrats only win when they get the progressive Democrats, when they get some of those, like, middle of the road and progressive Democrats, white, to vote with the overwhelming majority of Black and Latino voters. Now, who has the ability, the charisma, to be able to do that?
And the track record.
People are pushing.
And
you know, John, I have never heard anybody describe Ras in that way, but
it's true.
It works.
It's true.
It's absolutely valid.
Everybody who knows him knows that's true.
You know,
he's always got his head in books. He's always reading from the right side of the library, because he reads from all sides of the library, but he reads about the side of the library that includes us, right? Mm-hmm. Normally, when Black people are dealing with white Democrats, we know they're always going to play a game of sacrifice the Black person or sacrifice the Black community. They're always going to be like, well, we need this, but we're not going to get, like, you're not going to be able to get community oversight on the police. No, not that, right? We might give you something here. We'll give you some positions, which is why we see a lot of the Black Democratic Black Democratic mayors or politicians, like, they've made side deals. That is not for their community. Like, they're not coming out openly and saying what their community gets from supporting someone who can't even articulate what our problems are. And when she tried to in the debate,
she likes Maya Angelou.
It was embarrassing because she was talking about third grade reading scores and the wealth gap. Right. Third grade reading scores and the wealth gap. And the mayor politely corrected her. Was like, you don't know what you're talking about.
What he said, we got a president with a third grade, so we've already proved that's not true.
Right. But also just in terms of, like, Black women are the most educated people in the country, but there's not a correlation between education and a wealth gap, because race and gender also play a role in that, right? And those structural problems play a role in that these white Democrats can't even speak to, can't even articulate. So when you have these Black politicians supporting candidates who can't even articulate their problems, I'm like, yo, I just hope the voters, right, the people who are voting, have the sense to understand, and not just sense to understand. I hope they just listen to Ras, right? Because the thing is, I think he can win in spite of the establishment because of his charisma, because hearing him speak, and at the end of, this was happening earlier on, right? When we were like, wow, I was surprised what I heard from,
right, Ras. Exactly, right.
He seemed so, like,
he made so much sense, right? About. He's got ideas.
Right. And I think that him in the general election,
and bigger than ideas, he has solutions.
Right. Right. He has literal solutions that he says has worked. He can use, like, he can literally point to thing after thing after thing that he did in Newark that worked. And he has the unique ability to even articulate what is good for Black people is generally even better for the rest of the country. And that's been true since the Civil Rights Movement, right? Any policy that has even remotely benefited us has benefited white people.
The masses.
Liberals
Jonathan,
are listening.
you are brilliant. Your
Liberals,
explanations
all the liberals
are
listening.
brilliant. And I think I may be speaking out of place here, but you spoke about how the mayor is always reading. Ed Ross got that from his mother and father.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was gonna
They
say the
were
house was
always
practically
reading.
a library.
It is.
And this is a lesson to the community. If we want our children to read, our children have to see us read.
Yep.
Right.
I can remember in 1972, I used to see Amiri Baraka. I saw him regularly. First of all, once I was on the Board of Education, he and I had regular meetings together, or I would be at Soul Session, or I would be at the Hikalu for something, and I would always see him. And Baraka would always, I'm talking about his father, would always have a book with him.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, he would always have a pencil in his afro when I would see him.
Behind the ear.
Right, behind his ear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one day in maybe it was 72, I saw Baraka. He had a book that had a cover that was blue and black. And the title of that book was Monopoly Capital by Paul Barron and Paul Sweezy.
Oh,
and
years.
To make a long story short, I saw Amiri Baraka, the Black nationalist, with that book by two white authors, but they were leftists. Paul Barron and Sweezy were the editors of a left publication still in existence called Monthly Review.
Yeah.
But I didn't know all that. I didn't know all that in 1970. All I know is that I saw Baraka with a book that wasn't necessarily about African Revolution. It was Monopoly Capital. Guess where I saw that book again and where I had the chance to actually read it?
I got it in college.
After I went back to Princeton University. So Amiri Baraka was reading a book in 1972 that was used in courses in political science at Princeton. And I was to find that out after I returned back to school in 1974. But Ras is brilliant, and you really brilliantly described him. And I just hope that we are able to overcome the white ghost that is in each of us.
Boys call it the double consciousness. Amiri called
exactly. Baraka called it, I think, the white ghost. I'm talking about the father. Mm-hmm. That whispers to us, That's
right.
Don't vote for the black man.
That's right.
The black man is less qualified than the white man by simply virtue of his blackness. Right. Vote for the white man. We got to overcome the white ghost, and the spirit of envy and jealousy, because I think there's something there too to be tackled. A lot of people are envious that it's not them, that they're not as articulate as Ras Baraka, that they don't have the power of Ras Baraka, that they can't bring people to their feet like Ras Baraka, that they can't raise millions of dollars for a campaign like Ras Baraka. That, Ras can do all this. He doesn't have a doctoral degree. He doesn't have a JD. He doesn't have multiple advanced degrees. Why should he be the governor and not me? I think we have to overcome some of that too.
Right.
But you know what though, Larry? I think that what we've got to do is we've got to hear you keep giving the blessing. Remember, you did that the night, right? Remember, at the church.
Rem lag. You ready?
And Chairman, also you
said that, hold on a second, Donna. I just want to share with people what Larry said. Mm-hmm. Because remember that night it was very close between him and Shavar Jeffries. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And what you said you said that if you wanted to say thank you to Amiri, what you do, you go out and you vote for his son. And
that's right.
Say thank you to Amiri Baraka. Well, right now, if black folks want to thank themselves, right, and want to have an opportunity for the first time to vote their own interests, as John just laid out perfectly, who Ras Baraka is, right? Not only is he qualified, we know it's not about his qualifications, because you know that whenever they're debating, they don't talk about qualifications up there. So they're not putting that up there. They want to tell you is what their resumes are based around, oh, I've been in the military, oh, you know, I've been in charge of unions. And you never really hear the mayor talk about what kind of principal he's been, what kind of student he's been, right? You know, or you know, what kind of educator he's been. You don't hear him talk about that. So for John to lay all of that out, right, is beautiful.
Yeah.
But what we need for folks to understand is this is the opportunity for them to vote their own interest for a change. And that's really what politics is all about.
Yep.
And
you said it. You said it, Ed.
Mic drop.
What I was going to say, Ed, is that Chairman, you were going to be joined when we started at the top of having this get out to vote. Primary election is on Tuesday. In New Jersey, early election has started. You were going to be on the panel with Minister Haqq from the Nation of Islam, who represents this area, and also Pastor Boyer from Social Justice. And they got pulled into different meetings, and they were not able to join you. But what I want to say is that there was a conversation that Minister Farrakhan had with Mayor Baraka that if he were to run for governor, that he would support him. So he's running for governor, and Minister Farrakhan has put his blessings on Ras Baraka. And I remember Raz's slogan, and it was so catchy because you heard it from the toddlers to the elders. When I become mayor, you become mayor. And I said to everybody that when Ras became mayor, everybody became mayor. And when he becomes governor, we all in New Jersey will win. So we have to get out and vote and support our interests. We are in some very challenging times. This mayor is going to be pushing back against DC, digging into our communities, solving problems. And you need somebody who's ready on day one. And that's Mayor Ras Baraka.
Well said, Donna. You hit the bullseye. You hit the bullseye. I mean, look,
look out.
If Ras is elected, we will get the reparations task force bill passed. There's no doubt in my mind that Governor Ras Baraka will bring, unlike the sitting governor, will bring the full weight of his office to bear to get his assembly representatives and his Senate representatives to get that bill out of committee and get it signed into law. If Ras Baraka is governor, there's no doubt in my mind that we will finally get the police review boards with subpoena power bill out of committee, and after 60 years signed into law, that municipalities can establish police review boards with subpoena power. If Ras Baraka is elected governor, there's no doubt in my mind that we will get same-day voter registration. We will end the archaic law that says registration has to be cut off 21 days before an election, and you can't go into the poll and register and vote on the same day. They do it in other states. They can do it in New Jersey. So these are real policy choices that are made when you vote for a candidate and when you vote for Ras Baraka. I don't see, we had a forum. We had the People's Convention. We brought the candidates in there. You know, Sweeney could not bring himself to say he supported reparations. It's on tape. We got the tape. I don't know what he's saying now, but in front of that crowd at Essex County College,
that's right,
he could not bring himself to say without equivocation, I will sign the reparations task force bill. He couldn't do it. Fullilove sent a representative, so he wasn't there. His representative was there, but she's not going to be governor. She's going to be lieutenant governor. She says she supports reparations, but I haven't heard Fullilove say he supports reparations. Fullilove, I remember during the George Floyd episode, Fullilove came to Newark and stood on the steps with Mayor Baraka to condemn police brutality.
That's right, he sure did.
But we're here 5 years later. I have not heard Fullilove say that as governor, he will get the police brutality bill with subpoena powers, get it passed by the assembly.
And we saw Fullilove show his behind around the killing of Andrew Washington.
That's right.
On that same front. He might not even be able to carry Jersey City behind that kind of mess.
You know,
I'm going to be stepping out, but I just want to say that I'm going to be calling people I know just to make sure they come out and vote. I think he can definitely win this primary, and I think he's one of the only candidates who could actually unite the state of New Jersey. I think that what he's offering is something very different. I think he's offering us to really reimagine New Jersey. I love that he had that slogan. That's my favorite of his slogans, because he has to reimagine what it means. And I think that the power, I ended up seeing the Beyonce concert. My wife loves Beyonce. I love Beyonce now too, because, oh my God, that concert was amazing. That first 20 minutes of the concert, that was one of the blackest experiences I ever had. And I know that sounds wild, like Beyonce, right? But she incorporated Ras Baraka's poetry into it, right? So this is a global, worldwide phenomenon in terms of Ras Baraka redefining what America, or defining what America means in a spirit of Black excellence. And if you haven't seen it, you got to see it. You got to hear the poetry and the visuals and all that, right?
Where can folks see it, Jonathan, so we can put a pin?
You could Google it online in terms of
Beyonce and Ras Baraka. But to see him recite that poem, it's on Def Poetry Jam.
I know
that's when he first did a poem. It's one of my favorites. But also, there you go. There you see transformative. I'm sorry, Jonathan, but there you see something he did years ago that is traveling all around the world. And then that, because she's putting it on, and it's funny how they did that, because when the news outlets began to report her putting that poem in the background, they began to report on what the Chitlin Circuit was back in the day. So how something that came right out of the mouth of Mayor Ras Baraka and on the stage of Beyonce brought a report of more education. I'm sorry.
And I think that was deliberate too, right? She was in New Jersey a week before the primaries, and she had been featuring this all over, right? All over the country, right? So this is like this worldwide phenomenon of putting, because what she's been doing with the Cowboy Carter album is like, she is saying, we are going to redefine America from whatever that thing is over there. And we are redefining it in Black excellence. And that is as American as anything else. And she's really trying to say, this is the country that we need. So when he's going reimagine America, reimagine who we are, I think that is perfectly in line with it. I think she gave him this big whole, like, because, you know, Black women love Beyonce. I don't know, very few I know do not. And in terms of the power of culture, like his dad talks about the power of culture, he talks about the power of culture. And I think seeing that he is utilizing what he has in his poetry and his culture to really unify America that includes us, like that is not ashamed of us. That's not going to say, I'm not going to be in front, like on these issues. I'm not, because those things which are Black are good and have always been great for everybody else in America. If we benefit, everybody else really benefits. And that has historically been true. And I think he is uniquely, with his charisma, with his poetry, with the things that he does. Oh my goodness, if he gets the nomination, New Jersey will be hot. Him versus
on fire.
Oh my goodness. That will be a wonderful debate to have. If it's not him, we're just going to be sleeping. We're going to have Trump on one hand, who's charismatic, right? We all know this. We're going to have Trump coming to visit, Trump's charisma, and Citarelli, who's I'm not quite sure about his level of charisma, right? But versus but who combined is a lot of charisma on one end, versus the Democratic field, which is not very charismatic at all. They don't. have the
Jonathan,
power.
before you leave, is there anybody in the background?
No one's in the background right now. As a
Okay,
matter of fact, I'm
okay.
going in I'm leaving to go visit my wife who has a concert tonight. Not tomorrow, has a concert tomorrow.
She's performing.
She's performing. Yeah, she's
You gotta
performing.
let us know this stuff, Jonathan.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just sneaking up. She's gonna be in Maine, so I'm gonna sneak up
For
to Maine.
everybody's benefit, Ashley Austin is a beautiful, powerful, classically trained singer of the highest order.
Mhm.
Right? No, you got to let us know that, man.
That's fair.
Get on
That's
you about
fair.
that, man.
That's fair. I'm supposed to just sneak it out and run it up.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So
not sharing.
fair. You're right. My bad.
Mr.
So
Landon Paul Robeson, man, you got to come correct.
He's
You're
still on
right.
the honeymoon. He's being selfish.
yeah, fair.
Honey is good, baby. Honey is good.
So when I get to the airport, I will try to jump back on. But yeah, I just wanted to end with that, right? Just to get that out there, because I do think that like people underestimate who he is as a practical nerd, right?
Mhm.
As a practical bookworm, bookworm who can solve problems because he's trained to solve problems, and he works with smart people who also try to solve problems, right?
Right.
He did that as a principal. He did that as a mayor. He literally takes tasks and he goes, what can we do to solve this problem? And he does it, right? He's the only person who's running with a track record of solving so many problems, right? And you could take from when he was principal at Central and he got those test scores up in 1 year so much that he had to be accused of cheating, to the things that he's done as mayor in terms of taking something intractable as crime and transforming it, taking something as toxic as the police relationship with the community that he inherited, which had a consent decree, which has still with that consent decree, to the point where that relationship has also been transformed to ways that we didn't think would happen before, right? So there's so much that is smart, but it all stems with him being a really intelligent bookworm who is a practical progressive. He comes through his progressive solutions because they are practical. Most people look at progressives and they'd be like, oh, it's pie in the sky. It's not really there. But the strength of Ras Baraka is because his progressivism, the things that he does, comes from him wanting solutions to work. He brings that to the rest of New Jersey. We are reimagined. We are transformed. It is a different place.
I need my friends on the left to hear that too. Yeah.
And if anybody remembers, when I want to say like a year before, when he was running for mayor, all the policy town halls he held, like he was sitting already in that seat. I can remember going to some of those town halls, and it was like the solutions were coming out, and he was putting them in place. Well, and like I said, when he walked into the mayor of Newark, he had so much work he had done that he was ready to put forth.
100%. And Donna, where we were the guest we were waiting on, and I hope
I'm gonna make a call. Hold on.
Yeah. I was really looking forward to that conversation with Mindy Fullilove. Queen is loaded.
Oh man.
And while she's doing that, Mindy Fullilove is the author of Homeboy from Orange and Root Shock. Homeboy from Orange is a great narrative around I'm having a brain freeze. Say his name. I can't say his name. You're holding the book up. We already, you got to talk. Ernest Thompson, yes. Right. And Root Shock is a very important take on the impact, the human impact, the emotional impact, the psychological impact on people's lives when they're confronted with gentrification. Personally, it's a very important treatise that merits support, and of course that family has been a very stabilizing family in the judicial system in this county for a long time as well. I was really looking forward to that conversation, so I hope we can get her on. And of course, Asia's crew will be on in a few minutes at 8 p.m. and she reconfigures her civic association. So we're looking forward to that.
Behind the camera, all the power. They became directors. They became movie camera directors. They Ozzy and Ruby were, I mean, not Ozzy and Ruby, Ozzy and Chris were able to even get them.
What were we listening to?
What was that I heard? Is she on in the background?
No, that sounded like you, Don.
Yeah,
No,
this sounds like it's coming from you.
I'm gonna jump off for a minute. I'll jump back on. I'm
Okay.
gonna jump off.
Okay. Go ahead,
All
then.
right. I'm gonna go back and make my phone call, but I was muted, so let me try again. Okay.
Okay, yeah, because we heard something, and I you know, it sounded like it was.
I thought it sounded something.
Interrupted. Yeah, right. I thought it was coming from her.
Yeah.
Yes, there's so much going on. I was really also hoping that Ami Torres and Nadia would have been able to get on, because, you know, against all of this drama is, you know, there's still protests going on at Delaney Hall on the daily basis, right? There has been some civil disobedience, right? People have been brought in and shipped out. You know, Delaney Hall is a stone throw from the airport. There's a very strategic location, right? And we wanted their take on that, and all of the other things that are important. And you know, folks need to understand, and I'm talking to our community now, that, you know, we haven't seen the immigrant question become such a question in a long time like this in this country, but it has always been closely and organically related to anti-Black racism in this country. Somebody put in the chat that this is the fugitive slave law all over again, and then one of the hearts of that law was also the Dred Scott decision. And what's at the heart of the Dred Scott decision? Citizenship, birthright citizenship. And these attacks on Black and brown immigrants are just the opening shots, for a more full attack on birthright citizenships. And we have seen in other anti-democratic eras, like the McCarthy era, where one's political beliefs can become the basis for your birthright being attacked. And that was horribly illustrated in the case of none other than the great W.E.B. Du Bois himself. We mentioned Du Bois earlier on in the conversation around the question of the double consciousness. You know, our people, the inability to not move forward because they hear the ghost of white supremacy constantly doubting them and pushing doubt on our persona and our souls, right? The great W.E.B. Du Bois, because of his daring to have a radical political orientation in his 80s during the McCarthy era, was put in handcuffs and charged with being a foreign agent of the state, right? And this obsession with supporting the greater Zionist project, that is the Israeli settler colonial expansion, and the destruction of the Palestinian people, and the material possibility of a Palestinian state, right, is going to, looks like it's going to be the springboard used to come at anybody that opposes that reality, right? So this is a really, really critical time to be trying to pull all these things together. So there's a whole lot to we're going to have to, you know, this is no time to be on the sidelines, no time to be second guessing about whether or not you should participate, you know, in this resistance. No time to question whether or not voting matters, right? It matters probably more now than it has in a long time, right? It's a critically important time to be as fully engaged as possible. And this is not a call to make, because I'm probably the only one in this conversation that's not a Democrat in the sense that others are, right? I come out of a very radical tradition, as does our mayor, right? But there are practical places in what Amiri Baraka taught us in the halting the advance of the right wing. sometimes we have to be strategic and deal with what we got to push that as far as we can push it from the left in order to halt the advance of the right wing. So, what a
So I haven't,
challenging Yes, ma'am.
I haven't been successful, but I'm staying by the phone. But we just got breaking news that the immigration officials target multiple Los Angeles sites in raids condemned by area leaders. It started like an hour ago. So federal agents conduct immigration raids across LA, protests and city officials respond. Dozens possibly detained by federal officials amid immigration raids in LA. It's going on as we're over here talking.
Yeah. They're gonna keep doing it until we the people make them stop, right? And that's gonna that push. We're not just pushing on our folks that we vote for.
People,
public engagement, mass action, mass protest also influences judicial behavior.
That's right.
To be real clear about that too, right? Just a few weeks ago, we had the anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education in 1954, when we had a Republican, a majority Republican Supreme Court. A majority Republican Supreme Court find a way to not only come correct on that decision, but to dare to recognize that it needed to happen unanimously. Now, of course, we know segregation is still an order of the day in public schools in this country. And New Jersey is one of the most segregated school systems in the country for all the facade of its greatness, right? But the fact that there was the beginning of an emergent mass movement that was embarrassing the hell out of this government on all levels and influenced those who needed to be influenced, and it made a difference at that historical moment. That math of protest, that math of engagement, that math of confrontation, that math of resistance, that math of solidarity, that math of the united front, that math is the order of the day as we speak.
Supreme Court decisions that possibly came out of conservative Supreme Court was Roe versus Wade, the decision about Muhammad Ali not going to the military.
And that's mouthful, Donna. And a lot of folks do not realize that when Muhammad Ali went before the Supreme Court, we had Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall abstained. He did not. He pulled himself away from that. He pulled himself away from that. I'm like, damn, you know. And they still came around with the correcting. Now, Supreme Court overthrew the Civil Rights Act of 1875, right? So we know the Supreme Court can behave another way. The Supreme Court gave us Plessy versus Ferguson. For a long time, the Supreme Court was all right with separate, but the Supreme Courts can go both ways. But it's our responsibility to do whatever is necessary to make sure that we're doing all that we can to make sure that they come correct.
And actually, a lot of decisions that have been coming out have against these executive orders, the Supreme Court they've been doing fairly well. I mean, it's a longer process that this president has not chosen to go through the process and just do everything through executive order. But when it's put before the court, I listened to the Attorney General of New York and how her and I think about 15 other attorney generals, they are pushing back very, very hard, and they're in their office.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what he's doing though, Donna, is that he's suing these folks individually, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not a class action lawsuit. He's suing them individually, which means that these folks have to find the money to defend themselves, right? And you got to remember that is a distraction, right?
Yeah,
it can be costly.
Yeah. So you trying to on one hand do your job, and on the other hand, you've got to defend yourself against a madman. And remember, when it comes to Letitia James in New York, I mean, he's just only going after her because he can't cause those charges to go away even when he leaves, right? You know, he's got to come back and he's got to answer all of those convictions, right? Because those are not federal charges.
That's right.
So, you know, he's got to come back and deal with that. He can't, you know, walk out the door and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to pardon myself. And that's partly why he's upset. He probably saying in his mind, I'll probably be dead when I leave here, so there ain't nobody going to put me in jail. Right?
Or he wants to be king so he doesn't have to leave there.
Either or remember, he's talking about running for another term, right?
Right.
So it's like, you know, I want to change the Constitution. I'll stay president.
Which is why these gubernatorial elections are important, because once you reach a certain number of governors of a certain party, you can do that.
Yeah. And so, you know, in the meantime, what I'll do is, you know, I'll put all of these unqualified people in these positions, and all they need to do is just be loyal to me, and I'll just go ahead and tear the country up. I mean, absolutely insane.
So
Absolutely.
and I'm thinking about, like, if this was a private company and it was the chairman of the board, that chairman would be protected by D&O insurance. The attorney generals, if they're acting in their capacity, and they're not found at fault, because I know that's how it was at the municipality, then the taxpayers will end up paying for that legislation.
That is
right?
true. That's absolutely true.
If they're not found at fault, yeah.
Right. But what you've got to remember is that, you know, here's a guy that control, and you got to remember the Supreme Court is out of control as well. Right? So you've got a whole bunch of folks
did undo Roe
it's
versus
absolutely
Wade.
out of control. Right? So, you know, you've got a question, Donna. What is the real rule of law in this country? What is it?
You know, President Clinton was on The View yesterday, and his biggest concern was that while the Supreme Court seems to be holding right now, he said, we're only 4 or 5, February, March, April, May, June, 5 months into it, and you still have 3 and 7 and 3 months, you know, 3 years and 7 months to go, that he doesn't think the Supreme Court is going to be able to sustain, here's another attorney at this, you know, at this level, you know.
Yeah. Well, what's good, Asia? You know, Asia got a guest coming up at 8 o'clock. So, you know,
I am the guest.
Oh,
what
yeah.
say you, Attorney Norton? How's the Supreme Court doing with all of these decisions?
Oh, wow.
It's a mouthful. Okay.
What a time to come on. Talk about a question. Yeah, so not necessarily talking about the Supreme Court necessarily, because I don't study, well, not say I don't study, but I haven't necessarily dived deep into it and like read opinions, etc. But at the end of the day, the U.S. Supreme Court's main job is to make sure that laws, etc., are abiding to the U.S. Constitution. And that's up for interpretation, right? And so if one justice believes, or if the majority of the justices believe that whatever is being brought before them isn't aligned with the U.S. Constitution, then that's how they're making their decisions. But it's just one of those things where.
And I would say, have to, you know, Ed, both you and H are attorneys. That you know, to sit in a constitutional law class, is it just like we're seeing?
Donna, hold on for a second. I just want to say, I saw your guest pop up in the back, but you got to remember, we only have about 3 minutes, and what's going to happen is we're going to run into Asia's time. So, you know, because I thought she was supposed to be here at 7:30.
Yes, Dr. Fullilove. No, she's still there. Dr. Fullilove,
I'm late. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. And could she come back at 8:30 if she can?
I think that John has a segment coming on at 8:30 on the hip hop side with with that guy that likes to pop in and out of the show.
Yeah, Chris Randall has a second.
Yeah, Mr. Randall. So Dr. Fullilove, we need to get
good to see you.
Yes, we need to get the fullness of your conversation. So let me just introduce you to the panel. There's attorney Asia Norton, who's on to talking about her civic association, myself, Brother Zaid, that you know, and the founder of the show, and also attorney Ed Riley. So everybody, majority of people, I don't think we didn't get attorney Norton. We didn't get you a copy. We got to get you a copy of the book. We really wanted to talk about it.
And
so
don't forget Root Shock.
I'm sorry.
Don't forget Root Shock. There's another book in the conversation too.
So can we bring you back, Dr. Fullilove?
Yeah, and I promise to be on time. We have some guests from South Africa, and we got to talk about University of Orange and what they're up against and what we're up against. And
from South Africa.
Yes, we got to talk about that.
That is very timely. I cut my teeth in civil disobedience in the anti-apartheid movement. So when we do bring you back, we're going to talk about all of that.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, so I'll call you tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, thanks. And
okay, thank you. No, we understand. We understand. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That is how me and Adema met. Doing anti-apartheid work. He was coming out of Princeton. I was going into Rutgers North. We were throwing rocks at all of our white folks over the question of investment in South Africa, and they weren't hearing us, so we got very loud. We had a statewide coalition of Black student unions. Whatnot. We had a major demonstration here in Newark, and he led it. Coming out of Princeton, being from Newark, he led the demonstration. Yeah, I led the security in the demonstration. You know, this is the late 70s. You know, so and here we are now with Afrikaners being brought here with protected status, and our people are being locked up and with lost men. Yes. And we used to watch TV when we was young. The bad guys wore masks. Now the police wearing masks, and that's supposed to be all right. We're supposed to be safe.
Pause that thought, because I don't even think we digested when the South African president was here at the Oval Office. So we're gonna have to talk about that when Dr. Fullilove. But Attorney Norton, what are you doing with your civic association? We all going to DC? What's going on?
How are you?
Well, hold on. First off, Asia, I didn't even know you had a civic association. I'm a little upset about that.
No, don't be upset. No. So just background on my civic association. So for everyone, it's called the Asia J. Norton Civic Association. Couldn't think of any other type of name, right? But what have you? I actually incorporated the association about 3 years ago. And so just like timeline wise, so 3 years ago, I was finishing up or I was entering my third year in law school. So the goal was just to finish up law school. And then right after I finished up law school, I clerked for the assignment judge in Essex County. And so contrary to what's going on in our U.S. Supreme Court, the courts are supposed to remain impartial. I know, controversy at this point, but because of that, I couldn't associate myself with anything that was quasi-political or appeared to be political whatsoever. So whether it be my civic association or attending rallies or going to even like political events, I had to remain that distance because I work for the courts. And so when I finished up my clerkship last year, or I'll say August of 2024, I began working as an attorney in a law firm downtown Newark. And my background right now, I practice commercial real estate. And the work that I do, I felt as though it was kind of putting me at a distance from what things that come natural to me. So prior school board member, prior teacher, all here in the city of Newark. And so wanting to still remain close to my community and give back to my community all the things that have poured into me. And so I had that civic association that was started about 3 years ago. So I was like, hey, how about I do something with my civic association? And that's what I did. Was able to work with a lady out in Texas with my website, worked on with an alpha on my logo, and things just kind of like came together. And so my grandmother's birthday of this year, March 11th, 2025, I decided to launch my civic association. And one of our first events was a iftar down in a place. It was a grab and go iftar in Hillside.
Feeding Muslims, baby. Assalamu alaikum. I gotta get you a bean pie.
Stop.
$2.
That's hilarious. Well, actually, like, explain this. So I'm a Christian. I was raised AME. I attend as
James AME African Methodist Church at 588 Dr. Barton.
Exactly.
Reverend Slaughter.
Amen. But I'm from the South Ward, still live in the South Ward, born and raised in the South Ward. And as everyone here knows, but maybe, and I know most of our listeners do know, but just in case, the South Ward is mixed with Christians and Muslim population. And so I would say half of my family are Muslims. And so, like, even it just becomes cultural. Like, we don't eat pork really in my household. And so just that connection.
Absolutely, baby.
Exactly. And so in terms, like, it's just one of those things where, and then my hairstylist, I go to Strands in Maplewood, and the woman there, they're Muslim. And so they actually are the ones that has suggested that I do a iftar. And I was like, wait, but are you sure? They're like, girl, bye, go ahead and do your thing. And it really worked out because we ended up getting bean soup from Salam Ice Cream Parlor down on Bergen Street. And then we had the actual grab and go at Smokeland Smoke Shop in Hillside on Summit Ave. And so that was one of my first events. And the events there, they really just start coming together, and it's easier. I would say that once I have an idea, there's a lot of support from my family, my friends, and my community to like see it through. So then, like, in the iftar was back in March. In April, we did an Easter egg hunt at my family's church on Wainwright Street in the South Ward. And that really just like came together. Went to my church family at Union Chapel AME Church, and they said, hey, yes, of course, come. And then I was able to get a union to sponsor the actual like Easter egg baskets, the eggs themselves. There were plastic eggs. We didn't boil eggs. And so it just really came together. And then I ended up also doing a book scholarship for high school seniors in Newark. There were 3 recipients. One attends Science High School, another one attends Bard, and there's one that attends Newark Academy. And so it's my way of staying like connected and like doing something that just feels so natural and organic for me, just like being a part of my community, being close proximity to my community. And another thing, all the things that I've done thus far has been things that people have done for me. So I was when I was in high school, my mom and my 2 sisters, we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on Chancellor Avenue, again in the South Ward. And my mom's landlord, when he found out I was going to college, he was like, hey, let me know how much your books cost, and I'll pay them. I'll pay money for them. And so say it again.
Beautiful landlord, my God.
Yeah, I know, right? And so just like the dynamics of landlord tenants, and the I'm not gonna call it rhetoric, but the narrative that we hear between landlord tenants is not always positive, but that's not necessarily always the only narrative out there or the only experience. But yeah, so our landlord, he gave me money to help me pay for my books my first semester in college. And like, that has helped me. Like, I'm an attorney now, right? Like years after that. And like Easter egg hunts. What else are we doing? I'm doing a diaper drive. Now it's over from June 2nd to June 13th, the 3 locations, Smokeland.
Do you have any partners, Asia?
Community partners. It's like
no, I'm not asking that because there's a one of my mentors does a diaper drive, and they're always looking for partners. They got a warehouse full of diapers, so I'll make sure I text you the information.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah, so one thing that I recently learned about diapers, so like government assistance, whether it be WIC or SNAP, they don't allow funds to be used to purchase diapers. And if I'm not sure, like, so my kid, he's 13 years old. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole, y'all.
Yeah, just great show. Yeah, wow.
I know. And the reason why I mentioned that because it's been
a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, it's been, almost a decade since I purchased diapers, but we all know diapers cost a lot of money, right? And so if you're
years ago.
exactly. So if you're on government assistance and your assistance isn't allowing you to actually use your funds to purchase diapers, how else are you like doing that? And so that's what kind of motivated the diaper drive, because people that are in need don't have the resources necessarily to purchase diapers and etc. So yeah.
Asia, are you doing let me ask you this, because it was funny because I had thought you might have done it while you was in the board, but you did this after the fact. But I know while I was a council person, I did the foundation as opposed, and my mentor said do the foundation as opposed to the civic. But is yours still considered nonprofit, the civic?
Yeah, they are. It's a nonprofit because I'm not going to give you the law necessarily because I don't know law itself, but like whenever like an organization, majority of its proceeds are coming from donations, it has a nonprofit status. And so, and all donations are tax deductible. And that's like another thing that like comes with the benefit, because doing things, because I would just do things in general and it's not tax deduction because you're just doing it out of your own free will. But being able to do it under a civic association, you can do tax deductions when you're putting your money, or other people are not investing, but are putting their money into something of the sort.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Say it again.
Now, I wanted to ask Donna a question because there was a teachable moment in her question. Donna, what is the difference, right, to folks who are trying to figure these kind of things out, trying to get into these kind of spaces? What are the pros and cons of going the foundation route versus the civic association route? You've been down both lanes.
No, I haven't done a civic, but I know my mentor guided me down the foundation. But here in a simple definition, it might be all in the name and might be all not for profit. And because I know we still have to do like the 990s when we're collecting, you have your board and you have to and what I did, I named and my mentor was adamant that let's do something that outlives you. And we named it, so we went back and then we named it after somebody who gave to the community, our community Orange, and it's called Thomas Colson Woody Orange Community Foundation, named after Mr. Woody. And and Mr. Woody, his mother started Woody Home for Services, and we all can know the history. At one time, if you were a color, you could not go anywhere other to the Black funeral home to be buried, and that was just the math of it. So it made for a great business model for Black funeralists. But Woody's mother started it, and he continued it on, and now his daughter Ida has continued the business. And Mr. Woody, when we dedicated a street in his Woody renamed the street in memoriam, the people that came out, churchmen started in Orange on Central Place. And it's funny because Homeboy for Orange, it starts on the corner of Perot and Central. So before those projects, those family housing was there, Churchman's was on Central Place and Perot Street. And when Miss Churchman came out, and so many, and Miss Wiggum and all came back, and how that Mr. Woody, and they taught, and then they taught each other, and the stories that came out were, tremendous. But when military people would come home, Mr. Woody would hear stories, and there was testimonies of he gave people anything, because they needed a pair of shoes to a house. You know what I'm saying? Like, you come in, he took you to Main Street, bought you a pair of shoes. Newly married, he gave you keys to a house. And these were all done. So, and also the civic stuff he done, he was an alpha as well, and did a lot during the time of Dr. King. And he helped schools during his time was very segregated. He worked to desegregate that, him and Mr. Thompson. So it's funny to be talking about that. So I think it may be just all in the name. And my work is more like partner with, like for instance, when Orange High School went to the football championship, they couldn't bring fans out to Giant Stadium. So we did the fan bus. So you do those little things that people, the little things. Or you might have a student who gets a full ride that can't pay for an application fee, so we'll pay for that. And of course, we do, and we're going to start doing it again because we haven't done it since COVID. But an annual trip to DC to the Congressional Black Caucus, so that students can begin to learn civic engagement and meeting with the senators, the congressional members, sit in session, see how policy comes about. And that started with when Payne Sr. was still in office. My first trip was 2 people. 12 years later, we were doing a full bus. And then last year we did it overnight. So it was more because it's not here anymore. But I remember as a high school student, there were trips that we could go to DC, you know, to learn about civics. And right now, I think I know Superintendent Leo and Adrian, when you was on the board, y'all were working to do some civic work in the schools, but I haven't seen it in a lot of schools in a long time.
Yeah. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I just think it might be all in the name, but I'm gonna do the thing and see if there's anything. And I don't know if there's a little strip, but I know in particularly Orange, most civics were around a political thing. But Asia, you clearly did it after your political career, and you're doing it for a community. So it might be all in the name.
And let me just say this too, and Asia, I appreciate. I was in a kidding way about the iftar, but on behalf of the Muslim community, iftars are done during Ramadan.
Yes,
it is a very heavy time for Muslims walking that walk. This particular season right now is a Hajj season, and Hajj is really a big deal for Muslims. Well, so for all the Muslims observing Hajj and Eid al-Adha, I just wanted to take that moment and put a pin in that, and thank you for that kind of thoughtfulness, because it is appreciated.
Yes, because at the end of the day, it's community, right? And it's the members, it's community, it's members in the community, and it's your neighbors, it's your family, it's your friends, and it's how our society is. I'm not gonna say how it's functioning. I just know, like, when growing up and just like living in Newark, living in the South, where it's always been about like us. It's never about like, oh, it's me, it's you. It's always about what can we do to like better each other. And I always appreciated the diversity of my community, whether it be religion or race, ethnicity, or culture. It's so rich and it's so beautiful, and it's a blessing to be able to give back to the community that pours so much into me. And like, so even before my civic association, I used to be a lifeguard. So like before I was a board member, before I was a teacher, I was a lifeguard in Newark. That was my high school job. That was my college job.
Very healthy way to take care of yourself too, by the way. So you can do for the rest of your life without hurting yourself. Very
Did
healthy.
you get your certificate at JFK?
I did. I got trained at JFK.
Every lifeguard in Essex County has come through the JFK certificate. It is so funny because I know our recreation supervisor will send them down for that certification program.
Yeah.
And then if you follow the lifeguards, it's like, yeah, I met you at J. It's like, it was such a big bonding. Like, y'all need to do a JFK certification. Like, that was like a college reunion.
Yeah, well, also it's because JFK is an indoor pool, and so when you're like, the only time that you can really get certified is during like the winter and spring months, and that's like no outdoor pool is open, and there's not that many indoor pools. You have like the YMCA that does. It's a smaller pool, but JFK it's a year-round pool. and it's large enough. And so, but the reason why I bring that up, so I was a lifeguard, I got certified at JFK, and what have you. I was a lifeguard through half of high school, all throughout college. And so when I became a teacher, there was like a brief period of like a lifeguard shortage, which was like unheard of when I was like a lifeguard, because it was like, hurry up and get your application in or you're not gonna have a summer job. But when I was a teacher, it was kind of like the opposite. They were looking for people to train. And so I came out of my own pocket and I sponsored three students from from Central High School, just to like pay for their certification, so they could not just for their certification, but pay for their class. Because it's like those little barriers that prevent people from being able to like go and become lifeguards or anything of the sort. And so the reason why I just brought that up, because it's just like, you got to pay it forward, because people done it for me, right? And if we don't take that initiative for ourselves, and we don't see that responsibility to continue it, then it kind of just gets lost, and we can't do that. I'm just a firm believer. Like, I stand on shoulders of great people that have helped me. I stand on shoulders of people that I probably will never know, I'll never meet, never heard of, but I benefit from them. And so you don't do it out of recognition. You just do it because, one, it's the right thing to do, but also just understanding that people have helped you along the way. And even when I gave the scholarships to the three high school students, the seniors, I told them, I was like, they're like, thank you, we appreciate it. And I said, the only thing I want from y'all is when you become doctors, lawyers,
back to
you pay it forward. Like,
That's
you
right.
go back either to your community, or you find a community just like yours, and you help that next person or those next people. And it's just something that I was raised on in my grandfather, my church community, of just like, we don't hoard opportunities, we don't hoard resources. We don't thrive that way. And so it's our responsibility to continue it. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is fulfilling. I love it. Like, it's really like,
and swimming is, I mean, I know you was just using that example, but that's another conversation as we go into summer. I remember the summer before last, as soon as the pools opened up over in Bayonne is Hudson County, right? Hudson County, Bayonne, and there was a terrible tragedy over there at the pool. And not knowing how to swim. And I remember the Black Eagle, Joe Madison. I think he used to sit on is it the Salvation Army? He used to sit on the board, and they do a grant to help people, like you said, people who would not be able to pay for certifications to get swimming lessons and get certified to learn how to swim, because when we're down at the shore can be very deceiving, and you get swept under or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And just knowing how to swim, it's a great exercise. It's good for exercise. It's a good thing to know how to do. And it just takes you, I think, it's something that we need to do more. And like you said, that shortage, and when we were kids, all the pools was open because everybody that was above us had went to lifeguard training. They became a lifeguard, and it was like generational, but somewhere it stopped, and we need to, get those numbers back up.
Yeah. And it's also just resources. So there are a lot of swimming programs in and around Newark. So we have the Newark Boys and Girls Club down on Avon Ave. They're actually offering swim classes, of course, for at a small rate. They're offering swim classes, and they are currently doing lifeguard training too. Again, the Newark YMCA, they have a pool at the bottom. I know they do certifications and they have swim classes. I think sometimes like knowledge is power, and just like trying to disseminate that information and get it to like the right people at the right time, parents, guardians, etc. But it truly is. I just remember just like going back to lifeguarding. It was so funny because I went to a Catholic high school, and when I got certified, I think my class, again, this is some years, it's almost decades now. It's okay. I'm okay. But I was my class at JFK was like $50 through the American Red Cross. And I remember going to like after that summer, my first year as a lifeguard, coming back to my school, and there was like a whole bunch of us that were lifeguards, and everyone was saying how much their lifeguard class cost. They were like $200, and these kids live in the suburbs. They're like $200, $500. I'm like, mine's $50. And I was just, and I'm bringing that up because the amount of resources that gets poured into the city of Newark and the surrounding areas, it really is like a beautiful thing. And our children, they have a lot of opportunities, but sometimes they just don't even know about it. And so
that's the word.
And I stand corrected. It was the American Red Cross and not the Salvation Army that did the grant. Yes.
So the American Red Cross, they are the number one entity that certifies, but there is like another one. I'm not familiar with them, but I've always got certified through the American Red Cross. But it's just like those resources, and there's a need, right? It's our community. It's a beautiful community. It's a diverse community. When I say diverse, it's not just ethnicity or culture, is just also class too, right? Some people have the means, some people don't have the means, and some people are just living check to check. And so having that additional resource, that additional income to send your kid to like swim class or a lifeguard training, right? It's just not possible. And I do believe that it is up to those who have benefited from those being important to us to give back, to say, hey, because my mom paid for my class, my lifeguard training class. My mom made sure we knew how to swim. And my mother, she's my biggest champion, and I appreciate her to and through. And so if I could just give back to my community just a little bit of what my mother had poured into me and my sisters, then that's a blessing within itself. But we have to hold ourselves accountable before we try to tell everyone, oh, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. And it's like, well, point the finger at yourself. What are you doing?
So, Asia, I got
okay, go ahead. I was going to throw something at you, Ed, but go ahead.
I got 2 questions, right? So, the first question I got is how old is too old to learn how to swim?
Oh, you're never too old. I used to be I was a swim instructor when I was in college. And I'm gonna be I've always been a teacher of babies. Give me the babies. I used to be a kindergarten teacher, right? That is my thing. But we would have adults come in. Adults want to know how to swim, especially when you start talking about vacations and like, hey, I want to be able to like go on.
We'll be talking about their damn health.
But that is about the health.
It's really good for arthritis too, and so all that great stuff. But sometimes we got to meet people where they are. So we can't say, oh, go to your health. It's like, hey, fun activities. Like people don't play football because of like, hey, I need to play football. They do it because they love it. It's something that they enjoy to do. And so if you can capture people's attention with just like, hey, don't you want to like be able to go to the beach, go in the pool, comfortable? Then that's the pool, and are there are more important? Yes, absolutely. But you gotta meet people where they are. And so, but Ed, to answer your question, how old is too old? There's no such thing. It's the pool, the water is actually better for you than air. So like once you go into the pool, and it's really cute at JFK because they'll have like the aerobics, water aerobics courses at JFK, and you'll see the more seasoned men, more seasoned women going into the pool, and as they're going to the pool, they're doing slow sips. But baby, when they're in that pool, they are ripping and running. They are doing their thing. The water is good for your body.
The buoyancy.
It's just good. The resistance, the impact is it's very helpful. It's very healthy. And yeah, so I'm not too sure if you were just asking for a friend, Ed, but you know.
And you know, it's interesting because I used to go to Lifetime and I didn't even think, like, I'm a swimmer, but when I went to Lifetime, you seen generations come in. People would do their laps in the pool. Everything they have land and sea. Everything they did on land, they did right in that water. And it's a whole different in the water.
Yeah, that's how it is at JFK, and I'm doing a big plug. I used to live at JFK. Like when you are training to be a lifeguard, and when you're working as a lifeguard for the city of Newark, like your second home is JFK, and that's exactly what it looked like. Like you'll have the center. So JFK is an Olympic-sized pool in terms of length, And so in the middle, you'll have the water aerobics. On the right-hand side, when you're walking in, you'll have the laps. And so you have people doing laps. And then on the left-hand side, you'll have people, you'll have the kids playing. And then on the other side is the diving area. And so you'll have people practicing like diving. And so it truly is, it's a beautiful site. I don't think it's an underutilized pool whatsoever. I think people utilize it. I think it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, it's very community, and it's it's free. It's free. So you said Lifetime Fitness. This JFK. And so there, I think the city has like recently did like a $5 fee, but if you don't have it, they'll still let you come through. Like just sign in, you'll be good to go. But yeah, JFK, that was my second home to and through.
I can imagine. Yeah, you stay like a fish. Yeah.
Ed, by the way, swimming was one of the secret conditioning weapons of the late Rocky Marciano. That was one of his go-to. I had a teammate. You may remember Chris Reed.
Yeah.
You remember Chris Reed?
I remember the name.
Yeah. He got a shot at the light heavyweight title. When he came to us, Chris is from Middletown, New Jersey, right? And we used to beat their behinds, right? But he wanted to get better, so he joined our gym, right? Chris was a competitive swimmer. And we trained Chris up, we polished him up, and we would take Chris, we're playing forget this white boy knocking brothers out. That was one of his weapons. And Chris was very smooth muscle. He wasn't real, none of that, But if you stood in front of him and he let you and got hit with his right hand, he'd knock you on your head.
So I just want to let y'all know, I came here to talk about my civic association, and y'all just really, now we're talking about swimming, which is a beautiful
But that was just, you paid for three, no, that was free civic. But now,
this is a very important, because I love this conversation. Like, I'm a very big proponent of like, we need more swimmers. We need people knowing how to swim, being comfortable in the water, our babies. Donna, you talked about an incident happening somewhere. Those incidents happen everywhere. Like drownings are real, and it's I can't say most because I don't know the statistics, but people do drown out of fear because they don't know how to swim. So it truly is like one of those life skills that has a lot of other opportunities that are connected to it. But I recently saw, again, I live in the South Ward, and I recently passed, I'm going to call it St. Peter's Pool. I know it's, prior to that it was Green Acres. Now I think it's called Bo Porter Pool, that rec area on Lyons and Wainwright. Yeah, Lyons and Lyons and Leslie. And what have you. The pool looks ready. Like the water's in there, like the city's on it right.
Mayor Baraka did early open because the crime reduction initiative, and I think all of the Orange, Irvington, East Orange did early. It used to be July 4th, but they did it Memorial Day. They opened Memorial Day. He did a big press release. He was the one mayor that did a press conference. We get the robocalls, and because when it first opened, it was like 60, 70. But this week was a good week to have the pools open and everything.
Oh, yeah. It's supposed to rain apparently, but yeah. So the pools, like it again, like as a former lifeguard, and I've actually worked at all the city pools. And I also worked at Camp Watershed. If people are familiar with it, out in West Milford, the city owns property out there. But I worked at all the city pools, and our pools are not underutilized, not in the summertime.
And even as I can say, as I don't know as a kid, I know on Central Place, and Orange is 2.2 square miles, and the earlier our fourth the elected people, the first one, Ben Jones, I don't know what the agreement was, but when they put one pool in one ward, 4 wards in Orange, every ward had a pool. Yeah. And I can remember as a little girl walking, you would walk down the street with your bathing suit and your towel on, start out early, come home, eat a grilled cheese, go wait an hour, let it digest, go back to the pool. My summer days was probably like 6 to 8 hours in the pool. And even then, the mornings with summer, you would start out, the lifeguards would do like an hour of instruction, teach you how to do laps and things like that. So
Yeah.
it was, everybody pretty much had, I know in my generation and that lived around us had some, whether you went out and you were a competitor or you just had the basics. If you get in this water and this happens, this is how you do this. If you're down at the ocean and something pull you, swim this way and all of that. Those basic, simple things. It's almost like doing a fire drill and just being prepared for,
It's a skill. It's a life skill. It's like knowing how to walk, knowing how to run, knowing how to swim. It is a necessity to and through. I know it's 8:30. It's like a little after 8:30,
Give us
and
some main takeaways that you wanted to give us.
And we have to know how, if people, is there any website information you want for
there is. It's Asia J. NortonCivic.com. It's cute. It's a cute color combination. I think y'all appreciate it. It's pink.
Is it red?
No, it's pink and blue. Thank you. Pink and blue. And so yeah, Asia J. NortonCivic.com. There is an IG page, there's a Facebook page, all active. And the more recent, again, Asia J. Norton Civic Association. The website is AsiaJNortonCivic.com. There's an IG page, there's a Facebook page, and right now the Civic Association is doing a diaper drive. There are 3 locations. I'm going to read off the papers. The diaper drive is from June 2nd to June 13th. And the first location is called Smokeland Smokehouse, Smoke Shop, 1552 Summit Avenue in Hillside. Then we have Strands Hair Salon, 1881 Springfield Avenue, Maplewood, New Jersey. And then the third location is Salam Ice Cream Parlor, 1024 Bergen Street, Newark, New Jersey. And just a sidebar, all 3 of those locations are Black women-owned businesses. And so if you have the opportunity, if you can just go purchase diapers, go to one of those 3 locations. They are drop boxes. You can go ahead and drop off your donation, and we'll greatly appreciate it. And so
the first one is down Summit Avenue in what town?
So again, I'll say all 3 of them. It's called Smokeland Smoke Shop, 1552 Summit Ave in Hillside, New Jersey.
Okay.
Strands Hair Salon, 1881 Springfield Avenue, Maplewood, New Jersey. And then Salam Ice Cream Parlor, 1024 Bergen Street in Newark, New Jersey. And it's the diaper drive from June 2nd to the 13th. And we'll greatly appreciate any all contributions.
Oh, wait, let me ask you, let me ask you, this is a diversion. That Smoke's place, right? That's barbecue. Is they food good?
No, it says Smokeland Smoke Shop.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking it sounds like a barbecue joint. What is that? A cigar spot?
No, it's not. They sell like accessories for I guess like marijuana.
Oh, okay. I can't.
You had him already for some brisket.
I can't barbecue no
But there is a good smoke shop right in Hillside somewhere on Burnett, or not too far from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so get you some brisket.
I can't barbecue no goddamn weed.
But there's not one too far. And there's actually, I'm gonna send you one. I can't think of the one in Irvington, but he's real good. And he started doing it.
Are you hungry? Wait, Donna, that's the thing. Are you hungry?
Hungry? Yeah.
Well, I mean, my mind went to that barbecue.
He went right. He wants some barbecue. I'm gonna send you.
OMG, that is.
Hey, you talked a lot about the South Ward, and you got to come back and talk. My aunt used to live on Goldsmith and Bergen, and I can remember walking back. I guess that's between Lyons and 9. That business district right there. Yeah, that's a well thought business district right there. Like you can walk in that between that whole thing, get your hair cut, get this, get that, get that.
Yeah. And like growing up, there used to be like a summer. It was like in August, and it was like the Bergen Street Festival. And And oh my word, it used to be so much fun, so much fun. It hasn't happened in a long time. But yeah, that corridor, that business corridor, it definitely has a lot of significance. There are businesses there, and so, but yeah, our little Southward.
A serious
And
revitalization.
you got to do your first fundraiser and have a black tie or formal. We'll look for the Asia J. Norton formal annual.
Are y'all gonna come? Hey, Zai, y'all gonna have your bow ties, your suits?
The Asia Norton annual.
He wants some smoked ribs. He wants some.
You know what's good barbecue? Let me get biblical on you. You know, most of our people do not eat lamb.
Yes,
right? Lamb. Barbecue lamb. Make you want to dance.
Lamb chops, any type of lamb cooked properly.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but
grilling vegetables. I mean, I love grilled food. Grilling vegetables is
got it. If I want Zaid to come to a fundraiser, he needs to have barbecue.
Some barbecue. You gotta put barbecue.
No, it just needs to be good. It don't have to be barbecue. It just needs to be good.
It's KB's Barbecue. Look him up because he started.
I know KB's. I've done business with KB.
Yeah,
we've done business with them.
Yeah, KB's is good. And we got to get back to get the commercials on here so we can get some KB's Barbecue. We'll have that up first. In the spirit of Zaid, he took it like smoke. Wait.
He's hungry. Don't worry, Zaid. Just a few more minutes. You got it. You got it.
The FBI file started with marijuana.
And Asia, where's Chris Randall? Is he in the background so he can say hello to Asia?
No, he's not. I text him, so I'm not sure what's going on with him. You know,
we'll send him our love, positive vibes on this hot Friday, June evening. So, but yeah, it's always a pleasure. I'll be back on. I have guests coming on. 2 guests coming on within this coming month, June. Also, if I don't see y'all, and I think I will, but just in case, Happy Father's Day. You know, June.
Yes,
Happy Father's Day. Also, I think
did you vote? Did you vote yet, Asia?
Oh, I vote by mail.
You did.
I'm one of those people. Like COVID got me, and I love voting by mail because you just don't know what your life is going to be like the day of election, and travel, family, work. And so I'm one of those people that just has the county send me my ballot, and I'll just go ahead and drop it off at my leisure. I did my ballot about like a month or so ago. But they're definitely one of the Southward locations. Like I do know Weequahic Park is an early voting spot. And so, yeah, make sure y'all go out and vote, y'all. The primaries.
We had a serious conversation about that before you got on.
I know.
And Asia, I'm gonna leave it to you to bring the past in because St. James is opening school up in Africa, so you got to bring. They are. We're going to Africa next year.
Yeah. And Reverend Slaughter, he's running for bishop too.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of exciting things happening at St. James AME Church. And so I appreciate y'all, and I'll definitely see y'all again probably next week and the week after that. I appreciate my All Politics Are Local.
Send everybody Father's Day brisket for Father's Day. You gonna send them some brisket coupon?
No, the children gonna do that. Say nah.
All right, Asia, listen, you take care, and good luck with the association. You know that anything you need, not only is All Politics a Local riding with you, me and Kim, whatever you need.
Please give him my love.
We have been so focused and on the GOTV, we haven't asked anybody tonight. So I know you are a host, but what you listening to while you're getting that Civic Association going? What was you listening to?
Am I listening to? I'm gonna open my phone and see what is on my playlist right now. So I am listening. So off the rip, Party Next Door. I'm not too sure if y'all familiar with him, but that's who I'm listening to right about now. But outside of like hip hop, I've been listening to like some 80s, 90s R&B. I'm an R&B person, y'all. Like that's my vibe. And so, but I am listening to Party Next Door, and he is an R&B artist. But make sure y'all go out and vote. To our listeners, it's important. Can't complain if you don't participate. And so
that's right. And those are people complain most, those that don't participate.
they really are. They really are. And so be on this side where like, hey, I voted. Good. Right. Versus I didn't. Let me now talk. But I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna let y'all go ahead, do y'all thing. And Saeed, make sure you eat before you go to bed now. All right.
No, that's how you get fat, and that's how you get heart attacks.
Or just
don't eat barbecue, eat vegetables. Like
strawberries and sliced bananas.
You can't eat going to bed. You just can't
eat raw. You got to eat raw. You're right.
And so, all right, have a good one, y'all.
See you later.
All right, daughter.
As we transition, before I came on tonight, WBLS Red Alert, they played Mariah Carey released a new single, and she's dating Anderson .Paak. And he helped her produce it. And the basis, make them clap to this. I can't. Rakim, yeah, Eric B and Rakim she is singing over Eric Rakim's song. I think it's making one of his songs, either Eric B for President or Make Them Clap to This. And I was listening to it for the first time. I said, so listen to a new release. That's gonna be a good one for the summer. Because I think actually Rakim is actually a big fan of jazz. So his beats are just really, really nice. Yeah, so get while we wait for Chris. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I'm not sure what happened to Chris. I mean, I texted him, and he didn't hit me back. So I'm not sure what's going on with him.
Well, we could go and remind. And of course,
Rhino said he was not going to be able to get on because he's still doing some stuff with his mother as well.
Yeah. And getting back. 22 minutes is the 10th, 4 days to go. This time on Tuesday, the polls will be closed, the votes will be cast, and please make sure that you are part of the process. Get out and vote. Early voting is in effect. And one of the things that they also said with this heavy turnout is that as I stated earlier, that they think that voting is going to go, the count may go into Wednesday, which is a good thing. We received a lot of announcements, and I hope that Afisa got them, and if we can put them up, that there is going to be, we got an announcement from Passaic, Patterson area, from Assemblyman Wimberly, and for Senator Kenyatta Stewart for Assembly. Senator Wimberly, re-election. Mayor Baraka for governor. Kenyatta Stewart for Assembly. Get out and vote. They're having that going on the 8th.
Is Benji supporting? Who's Benji supporting for governor?
Mayor Baraka. I just told you the line. Okay. Mayor Baraka is coming up now. I think
yeah, all right.
There's one I sent more, Rafisa. If you look in the text, I text them to you. Assemblyman Bimberly, Senator Benji Wimberly.
You call him Bimberly?
Bimberly, put it together. Assemblyman Kenyatta Stewart and Mayor Ras Baraka vote on election day. On June 8th, there is going to be a DJ marathon for Rise for Governor, Reimagine New Jersey, with D Nice, Talib Kweli, Eric B. I just spoke of them. And it's Hakeem Green and Chuck Creekmore. And that's going to be on Sunday, June 8th, live broadcast. We will put all this stuff up, hopefully before we close, but they'll definitely be on the All Politics our local page, Facebook page. Rise for Governor, Reimagine New Jersey, DJ Marathon, D Nice, Talib Kweli, Eric B, Young Guru, Legendary, Chris Washington, DJ Taj, DJ Omega, Paul Howard, DJ Quad, Ben Hameen, John Dugan, DJ Epps, DJ Johnny, Wishbone, Short Mike, DJ Prince Hakeem. Fundraising will hosted by Hakeem Green, our own, and Creekmore. And as we speaking, as I go to the next now, right now, NJ Pack is rocking out with Master P, The Locks, and Bone Thugs and Harmony. Oh my gosh, that's supposed to be an NJ Pack now.
Master P played an important role in the Million Youth March many years ago.
Yeah, that's that whole lineup. I can imagine you could probably drive by NJ Pack now and hear that.
Kind of go rewind a little bit. Go back to the one.
Let me just read the announcements real quick because I got people kept sending them to me on Monday.
I want you to clarify the June 8th announcement. Where is that? Where is that set going to be?
It's online. It's a live broadcast.
It's virtual.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's the DJ Marathon Sunday, June 8th from 5 p.m. to midnight.
That would have been dope.
Okay. There go one. They coming. Look at Kenyatta Stewart. A Legacy in Motion. Strength Driven by Purpose. 35th District. Vote, vote, vote. We got June 9th. Join us as we reimagine New Jersey as we come together with our governor to be elected. Monday, June 9th, New Hope Memorial Baptist Church, 91 Division Street, Elizabeth, New Jersey.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Pastor Bartley, June 9th, 7 p.m. The night before election. Come get that word. And then a GOTV rally, Mayor Ras J featuring Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman and Representative LaMonica Ivor. Sunday, June 8th, 3 p.m. Mount Zion AME, 39 Hildebrand Way in New Brunswick, New Jersey, 3 p.m. And I got them all. Jersey City, Saturday, June 7th, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. 360 MLK Drive, Jersey City. Rally and Canvas, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. The endorsements on here, 32 BJ, Pop. What else? PPDO, Climate Revolutionary, M-Gage, and more. Working Families, Make the Road, Action New Jersey. The endorsements are pouring in from Mayor Baraka. So it's a lot to do. And there's another one, Union Township meet and greet. We have to get out. And then we'll put these up on the Facebook page as well so people can go back and look. And again, in Orange, if you want to participate, 973-997-4126. And I'm going to send that now. And contact Jason Grove, voicemail or text. And if you need a ride, you can contact the campaign as well if you want to vote early. Ride to vote early.
So you wanted to add something, Zaid?
No, I was just going to. I was thinking about this. I don't know how you feel about taking on this question, but it's a question that people are having. There is a divide that a lot of people are very upset about in our community amongst so-called Black Democrats, right? How some have decided to come out for Mickey Sherrill or even earlier in terms of the NEA, Sean Spiller, without even a meaningful conversation within those ranks, about the legitimacy and the urgency of the Baraka campaign. How do you talk to our folks about that? Because I'm asking that question in this way. There are people who need to come out to vote that because of things like that get turned off, particularly younger voters. Right? So how and as somebody who's been in and out of this space intimately, right? How do you talk to folks about staying in the conversation and continuing to participate in spite of the contradictions that they find offensive?
Right. And I think as the Democratic Party, whether it be the Democratic Party here in New Jersey or the Democratic Party at whole, there's two things. There's several $1 million that were put aside for the National Democratic Party to have a different conversation with young Black men. And it was almost said that they were trying to move out the elders and bring in young people, you know. And then locally, they came out earlier for Mikey Sherrill. And what might be considered strategy, but we're all Democrats. And even at one point where, you know, Schumer had decided to vote and not let to shut down the government. And shutting down the government gives this is not the president you wanted to shut down the government of, because the control he would have had. And strategy and being divisive. And if you ever can remember conversations that Congressman Payne used to always have, and him and Jonathan would have about, you know, about young people sitting down, being a part of it, listening to the people that sacrifice, that I don't think that the Democratic Party legislation has been changed with the party line. And I think the people have pushed that a lot, as well as some of the people who are running, that there should have been, I believe, getting behind the Democratic Party, seeing what the people say, and then let the primaries pick who the party was going to get after. And I think we should have played a bigger role in getting out to vote and letting the people make the decision of who the Democratic people, or the people in New Jersey, who they wanted to run for, and let the endorsements come in. But that, for the that early signing on for Mikey Sherrill, I think it was too early, too soon. And even in one of the last conversations that you did see, that nobody thought that there were going to be 6 people that started out, took it all the way to the end. And that was probably because the people were showing up. And when they were listening, people were, it wasn't the establishment, or they wasn't dictated. And there was a very another article that was sent over to all of us that was very, you know, that was very lazy. We don't want to search for, we don't want to do the research. But I think people, you have to get in and see who represents your interests, because voting and voting not in your interest has consequences. And we're seeing those consequences play out on a federal level. That's just rolling back things that happened during the, you know, in the early 70s and things like that, rolling back at a pace that it took our grandparents and them, that they marched, some died for, whether it be voting, whether it be desegregation. So you have to get out there and vote your interests, and make sure it doesn't end on voting day. Once people get elected and they're sworn in, you have to hold them accountable.
Is that, but I think Zaid was trying to be a little bit more pointed, right? When we talk about the Democratic Party, I think we're talking about, you know, the mayor spoke to this, so I'm not going to say something that he didn't say. He said Saturday, he talked specifically about the Black mayors, right? And particularly a number of those elected officials, he said that he had personally helped. Yeah. And what you see is that these particular folks now, and I'm shocked by some of that myself, because when I discovered it,
you stated it,
yeah, I absolutely could not believe what I was seeing, because, you know, I mean, you know, if you know, if you take one of them guys in particular, I remember when Mayor Green would come on the show. We've been on for 16 years. He would come on when he was a councilman. He had this absolute pro-black black conversation he would have about youth community, about us working together, about us building. And now he has an opportunity to support the first Black mayor. And when I saw that, I was absolutely stunned by that, because I just couldn't believe that was him. And so and the mayor, you know, said last Saturday at the women's convention, he said, first, I'm a Black man. And then he said, I'm independent. He said, you know, no one's going to tell me, you know, basically, who I can support, who I can't support. and when I need to be doing the things that are right and best for my community. So I was stunned by some of those folks, because I do know that, just like the mayor said, he did send his team into those other cities when those folks were having troubles, either with violence or whatever it might be. He would send, Keisha and them into those areas.
Anti-violence. Listen, we have a black sheriff because Mayor Baraka walked him into that seat. I firmly believe it. And that black sheriff in Essex County is there because of Mayor Baraka walking him into that seat. Right. And there was no and he did that. He ran on the line with him. He took him, when he campaigned and everything. So Mayor Baraka has come into your Oranges, your East Oranges, your Irvingtons, and campaign in these cities. And when he comes, he doesn't come half-heartedly. He brings it. So again, and that's what I said. I think that leadership spoke out. It just didn't have to be done, because all 6 of them candidates are actively participate, whether this is the Labor candidate, the Urban Cities candidate, all of those candidates are actively part of that Democratic Party. I think leadership should have sat back, waited to see what the people say, and then make that decision, because we know leadership made a decision well before even the debates got started out in the community and everything. And I believe Mayor Baraka was. And you said he spoke to it, and I believe he's looking like, what, but because I know in one of his, we're tired of walking people into offices was one of his responses, and the people not doing the same when it's time for you to come back and give the same energy that he brought to you.
Right. Well, Donna, one of the things the mayor said on the mayor's forum, we were having a conversation, because when Congressman Payne went home to be with the Lord, he said at the funeral he wanted to speak to all of the electeds that were in there that looked like him. Mm-hmm. And what he said is that if we all organize and come together, we don't have to take any direction from any party bosses determining who should be the next governor, who should be the next mayor, right? That's something that we could decide as a community. That's something we can decide as an organization, but more importantly, as a Black United Front.
That's Black Power.
That's what he said, right? And so, Don, let me just say this. I'm not saying I don't know Mikey Sherrill, but I do know that Mikey Sherrill is not plugged into the concerns and the real issues in our community, right? Because just when you talk about maternity health and Black women, she has absolutely no clue on what Black women suffer when they're giving birth, right? You when you look at her being given money by the Doge people and so forth. Trust me, if that stuff was not revealed, no one would have known. She would have kept that kind of stuff to herself, right? Mm-hmm. And the problem I have is with all of these mayors, I can't even call them brothers at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Because my brother Imhotep Gary Bird always says every brother ain't a brother, right? Mm-hmm. We can't even call these brother mayors anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Because what they've done is that they've worked against the interests, right, of the masses of Black folk to be able to put in the first Black mayor. Let's forget the fact that he's Black, but he's the most qualified person to be governor at this very moment. And as he said, the only reason, right, that they're not talking about is because he's Black. And he's the one that's dealing with that. These folks don't want to deal with that. And what I'm saying is that, at some point, right, there needs to be a reckoning for what these guys have done, and then 2, there needs to be a conversation, because we're repeating the same thing, right? We've been through this before, right? America Baraka been through this, right? Coming through and organizing, but these guys have got to understand they in those positions because, particularly when you talk about this area, you talk about the North, you in those positions particularly when you talk about electoral positions, because of the name Amiri Baraka. Let's be clear.
Right.
You know, these people put their lives and their families on the line for Black people to have political power. These folks didn't know anything about that, and they would not have been invited to none of those parties. So when you talk about the Joe D's of the world, you know, who invited them all to an event and hired a professional photographer and was snapping pictures galore, and people, we now see all of the people that were there. Hey, listen, man, I'm saying support who you want, but at the end of the day, you don't go and totally disrespect, somebody who was there to support you.
Well, and also you don't forget history. Councilman Tucker, that's no longer with us, who helped found Black Issues Conference, the Black Issues that was there. And you had New Jersey Black elected officials, which Senator Rice set as the chair for, up until,
Black Caucus.
Yes. And then you had NBC Leo, which is at the county level, which is a national Black organization of Black elected officials. And then you have the Congressional Black Caucus that was started by the 13, those 13 Congress members. But that was there so that you can coalesce behind, other Black that we can expand the electorate, from the municipal government all the way up to the federal government. So the fact that we're the things that those before us did created so that that path could not be as strenuous to walk, that it's simple, but we're not even using the lessons of the Marys, of Councilman Tucker, of your Shirley Chisholms and things like that. You use it conveniently when it works for you, but we don't use it as a matter of how we get to where we need to be.
Practice.
Rest. A matter of practice.
Yep. But at the end of the day, Donna, what I'm saying is that, we happen to be the benefactors of all of those brothers and sisters who paid the price that came before us, right? and now we on deck, right? And some of these same people, right? We all have worked very hard for them to get in the positions that they in, right? And when the mayor says that he helped them, I know that. I was a witness to that. I saw that.
Right.
And so for some of these same people not to be there now, to help him at this particular point, because you could, just imagine if we all had just stuck together, all of us, right? You heard Larry tonight say, said that the mayor could win. That's what right? So you imagine if all of the Black mayors, that he was the president of that organization, if all of them had just said, you know what, hey, look, I appreciate.
And that was Mayor Mayor Warren, and Mayor Baraka.
And Mayor Warren is the only one that came out publicly to support Mayor Baraka. He's the only one that endorsed him. So let's be clear.
And Mayor Matt too. Mayor Matt did too.
Matt just did.
Yeah, Mayor Matt. But I'm saying out of those, the ones you just mentioned, those three.
No, it was Mayor Matt, Mayor Warren, and Mayor Baraka. But the thing about it, that organization benefits all of East Orange, Irvington, all of our urban cities, because they're doing policy to make sure that it serves the masses, but it definitely serves those urban cities. So,
and the mayor had nothing but good things to say about, he said that the only thing that separated our cities, right, where you can go from one corner to the next corner, you in Irvington, one corner to the next corner, you in Newark, one corner to the next corner, you in East Orange, right? And so therefore we needed to be able to work together, right? We needed to be there to help each other. So to see this at this particular point, I still don't really know how to respond to that. I'm completely daunted because, this is the kind of stuff about politics, right? That I begin to dislike, because the masses of the people, this is about our interests. And the masses of Black folk, you look at the wealth gap that exists in the state of New Jersey, we're not going to be able to affect that wealth gap until we get political power and we get the kind of people that are there to understand the changes that really need to be made, and we need to be able to affect the interests of Black folks first and then everybody else second.
That's
right.
right.
And we've got to be able to do that. But listen, we've come to the end of the show.
Good
So
show.
I want to, thank everybody who came on. So Zahid, let's thank, of course, all of the guests right up front who came on first, and let's just run through it.
And
Oh, really? We
talk
just
about-
had, Larry filled out that hour and a half.
Mhm.
Yeah,
we
we
filled
was
that
supposed
out.
to have. Yeah, we didn't have.
Missed all our folks that we wanted to come on, but we had a very heavy conversation just to put a spotlight on several things. One, yesterday was the birthday of Breonna Taylor and
Yeah.
Tyree Nichols. We remember them, right? The fight against police brutality is real and it continues. 14th is a big day around the country. Newark at the Lincoln Monument, 11 a.m. No King's Day, June 14th, right? Which also is wild. It's not only is Donald Trump's birthday, it's Che Guevara's birthday too, right? So we're gonna fight him good from the left, right? I should also. Oh man, I just lost my. I had a train of thought. Just
The
lost the train
King,
of thought.
the event on the 14th.
Yeah, I would just say. Yeah, I just said that. 11 a.m. Lincoln Monument. Right. We want a good turnout for that. June 8th, there is a beginning of a freedom ride, and I don't have the location for the actual. I was looking for the flyer, but there's going to be a freedom ride in support of everybody being snatched up by ICE that's coming from Newark going all the way down to Jenna, Louisiana, right? That's being done by IFCO Pastors for Peace in the tradition of IFCO doing caravans, right? Solidarity caravans. That we do solidarity caravans to Cuba helped start that back in the 90s, right? But there's a caravan, a freedom ride going all the way down to Jenna, Louisiana to highlight the injustices that are happening on the immigrant justice front, right? All of that's coming right through Newark. And then June 10th is the day. If you're not doing early voting, make sure you get it in. Just get it in, right? Bypass sellouts. Bypass. They doing that, we doing this. And more of us do this, we win with our man. And we the people.
I'll just say, I remember when Mayor Baraka kicked off his campaign and he talked about the people that were running in the primary. And he said, you can close your eyes and hit a button and you would get a good person. But this is not a time you need a good person. You need a courageous person. Somebody is going to be there to work for you. And that's the type of person that Governor Baraka will be. Please get out and vote. If for some reason, for the rest up until Tuesday, there is a forecast for rain, if that affects you, consider to go voting.
The umbrella.
Yeah, but if it, some people have
How come you expect rain, bring an umbrella? That was a metaphor for something else too.
But don't stay home. Get out and vote. And Attorney Norton said it earlier. You don't know what's going to happen, and tomorrow's not promised. So if you foresee some challenges, you can vote now.
Let me say this last thing too, right? This is the anniversary of the death of. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Right on the fix it right onto that, right? This is the anniversary, and we were all quite young. And Donna, you were just a baby, right? Today's anniversary of the death of RFK. We talk about the JFK pool all day, but RFK, Bobby Kennedy, got killed back in '68, and between '68 and '72, that was the period when the Democratic Party dared to push and lead from the left, right? And this is ever a time there's a coming for the Democratic Party to have the audacity to lead from the left. This is the time to do that. We just can't be y'all just can't be the soft version of all the backwardness coming from the right. You have to be an antidote. Got to be something that totally knocks it out the box and comes from another direction entirely that's fundamentally and principally correct, right? The time for that is now. For those of y'all Democrats, I hope you hear that.
Vote, vote, vote. And your family's from South Carolina.
Well, Joe Frazier.
Clyde has been doing some serious, educating on this bill. People, and he's one of those. He's a kingmaker too. He'll, he see how things can when it's time to move, and we have to remember, that many of us who have served in elected office, we stand on your Shirley Chisholms, your Ken Gibsons, and Sharp James and them. But one of the things, Councilman Tucker, and it was one of the things that they made for my generation, is that they paved the way. And lest we forget those lessons and practice them. We have it. We have their book on how to do this. We just need to do it.
Yep. Well, listen, we want to thank everybody for coming through. We obviously want to thank Asia for coming through and sharing with us her new association as well. So we want to wish her good luck with that. And we want to, send traveling grace to our brother John, who's traveling to Maine to spend some time with his wife, who's going to be performing. Well, she's been performing for the last, I think, 2 weeks up there. So he's going to check her out. Out over the weekend. So we want to wish
a great voice too.
She does, yeah. So want to do that, and then we want to thank our sister in the back, Rafisa.
Fisa's been a big help to the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee too. That's
Producing in the back. The producer is so important. I do want to send this note out that Dr. Fullilove, we are going to reschedule her, but she said she is entertaining people from South Africa. Right. And she said her message that they got into talking to ways how the University of Orange, which is an organization that they started here in Orange, could be of use to African nations. So and that might, her not being here has expanded the conversation from books that she wrote to what she's doing current day. So we look forward to having her back. But thank you, Dr. Fullilove. We understand. We're doing that work.
So definitely put her on the calendar. And if we knew that Chris wasn't going to show up,
we could have kept it.
We would have kept it. Let her come on at 8:30. But unfortunately, Chris played us like we suckers. So we won't respond like that next time. Believe that. All right. All right. So we want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. We'll see y'all next week. And just to drop a little tidbit, we just made John suggested something to me tonight when we were talking, Zaid and Donna. So we just may go live on Tuesday from Ras Baraka's campaign headquarters.
That would be a good idea. That'd be good to do.
Just to let y'all know.
Yeah, that'd be good to do.
Let us know where we gotta be.
We're playing it by ear. Yeah. So just let y'all know. Make sure the whole team is ready to go. We just may go live. All right.
And team, before you get there, vote if you haven't voted.
Yeah. All right. And so that means you too, Rafisa. So make sure.
And that's
already in the trenches. She's already in the trenches.
And one more thing I have to say, people, if you're working on election day workers, you work from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please, you have to do early voting. If this is going to be a big turnout, you're not going to be able to leave a poll for a break because you're going to be compelled to stay there. So if you're an election day worker, your hours are generally 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please vote prior to getting to that polling place you're working at. Thank you, Ed.
All right. Thank you. We'll see y'all next week. As Zaid says, we'll catch you with Zai.
And we'll see you in the whirlwind, and you don't stop.